Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Nen Show Podcast. It's me, your host, Craftsdwarf, here with my co-host, Mathwiz. Say hello, Mathwiz.
It's me. We're reading Ayakashi Triangle, and it's over, and, you know, that happened. It's unfortunate. No more Ayakashi.
Yay! I don't know what emotion I'm supposed to express. It's like when you see a sad tweet, do you like it?
Yeah.
To show support, but you're liking someone being sad. I don't know how to respond to that. But anyway, so yeah, not sure if there's anything else to say because it's still a little while before the next patron poll. You're welcome to update your pick whenever, but like I said, because we're gonna read, we got another whole series next anyway.
Yeah, we gotta jump back into Trigun, back into our 90s block, right?
Yes, we took yes, that is still the 90s. So yeah. But anyway, did you have any general thoughts on the reading before we get into it, or?
This was definitely. It was a really interesting read because this was getting into the stuff. Like, I caught up with the manga and was reading it weekly, like, shortly after it left Jump. So, like, going back and reading those chapters in one sitting, essentially. Definitely, there are aspects of it I appreciate a lot more. I did also kind of feel like, the series is kind of going along, and then it just kind of suddenly hits a point where it's like, oh, I guess we're in the last arc now.
Yep, it do be like that sometimes. Because yeah, it was funny thinking about my Twitter thread because I include rewatches and rereads. So I have Ayakashi Triangle, then I have Ayakashi Triangle reread. I just thought about that, but no. Cause yeah, I definitely, I still liked it more than just reading it weekly. And the one thing that definitely changed is I remember talking with you about it. I felt like, the manga. I feel like the manga could go longer, but then rereading it, it's like, oh nope, the character arcs all end and the antagonists are thoroughly beaten. So I mean, not that I shy away from more.
Yeah.
But I definitely reading it this time, rereading it, I definitely was like, oh no, this is more conclusive than I thought it was just reading it weekly. Because gasp, there were details I forgot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel like it feels like it kind of suddenly hits that last arc, but I do still like the structure of it, and like I said, reading it kind of not weekly and looking at it holistically this time, it definitely feels like all of those elements flow into each other in the story. Just, it goes really well up until, it ends, and it's a good ending.
Yeah. And right away we get into horny with Reo being Reo and Suzu making tiny omokages to and then it just keeps happening.
Yeah, then there's even in another chapter, I forget if it's Shirogane or if it's Shadow May, that's like, is this what you do before oh no, it was Shirogane, like, is this how a team should act before rushing an enemy's base? One thing I did not fully pick up on the first read, but on the reread, was just like the way that Suzu's powers manifest. Like certain things she'll use in battle later are kind of like foreshadowed or set up in very horny circumstances.
Yeah, no, for sure. Which also to a degree happened, like we were talking, or what was it? Yeah, your last time you were talking about how Ninokuru and Matsuri figure out some of their abilities during one of the comedy chapters, so they get a power up there, right? So kind of, yeah, similar. Yeah, gotcha. Anyway, and speaking of Soka, he touches a boob and then dies.
I like that there's a little translator's note at the bottom of the page that's just like all the text that's like flying by in that one panel.
Having to fan translators will hire redrawers to literally just like remove the Japanese text so that they could overlay the original the translated text. So that's that, on a weekly schedule that doesn't really. It's I can see why even in a professional setting it's not really feasible to do that. So
I feel like it can also kind of depend like, I know, like, for, like, Viz, for example, with One Piece, like, all the sound effects are, like, translated into English and English text. But I feel like it can maybe be, like, a stylistic choice in translation to not, like, to leave certain things. It's definitely an interesting topic.
No, yeah, I remember we talked about during Shaman King, because I noticed the one sound effect that was, it had the bone effect in the English text as well as the original Japanese, I think. So, stuff like that. But yeah, and of course with volumes, they might even just completely redraw the sound effect to English, like One Piece does that, where in the original Japanese, it's still in katakana or whatever. But again, like that takes way more time and effort than you can really do. Like, yeah, comparing the One Piece, the weekly chapters to the volumes, you can see, there's where they redid the sound effect. So I wouldn't expect it from a weekly release anyway, just because like.
Yeah, that takes a lot more, especially with the the simul publishing. Like, you're on like way more of a time crunch, I'd imagine. Whereas like with a volume release, you have a little more time and resources to work with.
Even mistakes, I think, are understandable. Like, to a degree, they're understandable just translating an ongoing story, right? Because you don't necessarily know the best way to translate something unless you know the full context of its use, which can apply to, like, later. Like, Interviews with Monster Girls, the way the title is relevant sort of comes into play in the last volume, and it doesn't really fit with the English translation of the title. So it's like, well, they were fucked, because what the hell are they going to do? This was originally the title was localized fucking years before the manga ended. So anyway, we are off topic. But anyway, May comes in, and
I came out because I got tired of waiting. If that was your plan, that's genius. And they're like, yeah, just as we planned, and it's like, no.
And yeah, I just generally love her, like, I'm going to school with you. Just because, having, as a former antagonist coming in, still antagonistic-ish, for sure. But the way she just comes in and, like, gets to have all these other relationships with the characters, like, because she has moments with Yayo, and is good. Like, I just like that thing, because another comparison I thought of was comparing Futaro Precure to Splash Star, because they both have a character who's born in the antagonists, who's basically a nihilist, and they sort of re-evaluate themselves through connecting with one of the main characters. But in Splash Star, I like those characters more because they go to the school, they have bonds with other characters that aren't just the main characters, and those sort of further their own perspectives. So I just like that trope of just having these kind of characters in these kind of spaces. Added on to it is I love May being a boomer. And she's just like, picture what with that small plank. And she doesn't know how technology works. She died 150 years ago. So it's fun.
And yeah, just stuff. Like, I can't have my picture taken, they'll steal my soul.
I think she has another instance of that. Oh, the train, that's right, because she's like, what, we get in this box? Yeah, but it doesn't have nearly enough, because I like those kind of jokes. They're silly.
Yeah, it definitely does more to, slowly shift her from the antagonist role into kind of more of a, sometimes foe, sometimes friend. Yes. And she's so goofy.
But no, and just, of course, I love this sort of tsundere-esque sort of like, I'm not helping you because I want to, I am helping you because it furthers my goals. Like, I'm not actually your ally, and it's like lying through her fucking teeth. But yeah, of course, May is also there to, fuck with Matsuri and Suzu's relationship. So they have the fucking swimming chapter where there's a bunch of kissing. Also, Lou, fucking showing her power level, and I don't recognize Blazing Sword, but I think the Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu, that's like, I think, was it Rurouni Kenshin? No, I think it was Rurouni Kenshin. And then Avant Strash is Dragon Quest Dai's Great Adventure. Kienzan, isn't that... isn't that Yu Hakusho?
No, Kienzan is Dragon Ball. That's
Dragon Ball, fuck. Yeah, now I got mixed up with the... Okay, yeah, I was... Okay,
Destructo Disc.
That's right, I did look that up like a week or two ago when I finished the reading. But I forgot. Yeah, Lou is good. I didn't look up Nebula Chain. Is that Saint Seiya?
Maybe? I feel like I haven't internalized certain details in Saint Seiya, most of Saint Seiya probably.
It has been a few years. Yes, it looks like it. Yep. It's a Saint Seiya attack, because I was like, there's a character in that manga who uses a chain. We totally read it and talked about it for 4 podcast episodes.
Yeah, but like at this
point,
over
an hour long.
At this point, I feel like I have a more like a stronger relationship with Saint Seiya through the movies because of the video.
Right, because you watch those and more. You watch those after the manga, obviously. So, relatively speaking, more recently.
Yeah. About the Ayakashi Triangle though, like in the where they start like, you know, getting into like, oh, they're battling for Matsuri through kissing. I do kind of like the juxtaposition where, you know, Mei being from like 150 years ago, like she has kind of like an innocence to her from that that like, you know, Suzu starts kissing with tongue and she's like, you can do that?
Yeah, she comes from an era where showing the nape of your neck was lewd, and she's trying to compete with Suzu in fucking horniness. Like, are you kidding me? Good luck. Oh yeah, and then of course the following chapter is sort of like having Matsuri trying to protect their reputation, and ending up doing so by taking it on herself by like getting caught with Soga. And just like, oh, it's not, you know, Suzu and Mei, it's Matsuri seducing everybody.
Yeah.
And, being an enchantress is the word they use. So, which again fits like, you know, Matsuri's like, I'd rather be seen as an enchantress than have everyone see you in a weird way. So,
yeah, it's kind of like, I'm trying to think of how to describe it. Like, I guess taking the, because, like, they don't comment too much on, like, the homosexuality aspect of it, but maybe that's kind of, like, baked into the... Because it's, like, Suzu and Mei, like, kind of... But it reflects more on Suzu, like, stepping out of line, kind of, and, like, you know, there's a comment that, like, oh, she looks so innocent. It's like, you know, But she's, like... So, I don't know, Matsuri almost taking that over and kind of, like... I don't know if delinquent is the word, or if I'm even describing this right, but, like... You know, oh, she's an enchantress. She, you know, both boys and girls. So kind of twisting it into something that's like, it's still kind of putting herself out there, but maybe could be seen as like more socially acceptable in a way, or less ostracizing. Because it's like, oh, it's just this, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't thought about it like that. So, sorry, excuse me. But yeah, getting on, we get the chapters that were banned from Viz, because... They were too lowly, apparently, which I understand.
Yeah, I don't like these 2 chapters. Like, you know, they're, I guess, like, I guess oh, right, oh, sorry. The one thing I did like in these chapters was, I haven't read Black Cat, but I could recognize the Black Cat reference that, like, Lou is constantly mentioning an organization called Kronos. And then there's, like, this little panel where it's, like, showing a cast of very, like, detailed character designs. And I'm like,
Yeah, I didn't even think to check that if it was a Black Cat reference or not. I just was like, oh, yeah, Blue, she's being silly and cute in her little Sherlock outfit.
And I know, like, later in the reading, and also earlier, you know, there was, like, a reference to the gender character in To Love Ru. And later... There's, like, a poster on a wall that's, like, a reference to, like, a To Love Ru in-universe, like, Magical Girl show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I remember the Magical Girl show, because, I think it was even one of these episodes, or one of these chapters, because they're watching TV and there's the Magical Girl show on. So that's a reference to, also a To Love Ru reference? Okay, because I noticed it because Matsuri had that outfit earlier when they went out shopping.
Yeah.
And she had like a magical girl outfit, and it was like, oh, it's this magical girl show. So that was also referencing the same thing from To Love Ru. Okay, because I've not gone through either of those stories yet, so I didn't pick up on the reference, but okay.
See, now I kind of wonder, I'm like, would one of the other dresses then be like a reference to like Black Cat character design? Now I'm like, the Yabuki manga universe.
Yeah, I was gonna say a Kentarou Yabuki cinematic universe. Though it does seem to just be like just little references, not like big things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, like with this chapter, I feel like and we kind of talked about it. I think there were a couple chapters in the last reading too, where the vehicle of, you know, the world of horny, there needs to be like lewd things happening. You know, usually they can be kind of multi-purpose in both, like, you know, it's an ecchi manga, so being there for that, but then also kind of like furthering characterization. This one felt definitely on the weaker side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I don't really remember if we're supposed to, or if there was anything big to get out of the chapters, but
it's kind of like it draws a connection between, like, Lou is now, you know, aware that, like, oh, Matsuri is Shiromatsu. They're like the same person, and so
right, yeah.
It also kind of leads into her sort of like it like Yayo being introduced to like the Ayakashi stuff is like she gets it. She's smart. She can like help out. But with Lou, it's like she also gets brought into that world, but it's through an abstracted lens of like, no, it's not Ayakashi, it's alien stuff.
Yeah, because she just won't see the world how it is. She'll see it how she chooses to see it. Right. Though I do like the bit where Suzu's small and peeping on Lou and Matsuri in the bath, and she's like, how shameless, and Shurigane is like, it's fucking annoying to hear that from you. Like, the most shameless person in the world is like, no, but this is shameless. Yeah. Oh, that's right. So then Tanumaro uses a technique to make Matsuri believe and act like he's a girl, which is funny. That didn't happen in the Ranma manga, but that did. You specifically highlighted that episode in the Ranma anime, and I didn't go out of my way to watch it. So that was interesting.
There's definitely like it's interesting kind of comparing the two, because like I know in my video I said that, like, you know, with how it's presented in the Ranma anime, you know, it plays into a lot of, like, stereotypes about, like, oh, you're a creep for wanting to, like, try on women's clothing, or, like, or there was even, like, the bathroom scene in that episode. So it feels like it's like a weird episode, and it hits on, it's just another, I guess, example of, like, time and place differences. And this also being a more narratively driven rather than episodic story.
Yeah.
I really like the way that this chapter plays in with like Matsuri's relationship with Soga, and just stuff like that. Like it I don't know, this to me feels more like, and I mean it's also the point in the Ranma episode that like they're acting out of character. This isn't who they are. Mm-hmm. But like I don't know, this one I felt less like bothered by.
No, I understand, because like it's just because like there's no just it's just Matsuri is acting more like a stereotypical girl in some ways, but and there's that level of just like, I mean, some character like Ryo's kind of okay with it. Suzu not as much, because it's like, like when at the chapter ends and Matsuri's like, oh, Soga, and Suzu's like dying inside. And of course there's massage scene, which is horny, but it's like Matsuri would be awkward about it as a guy, but as a girl he just doesn't care, and so he's able to just destroy her basically, and not give a shit. So yeah, there's it's a fun couple of chapters, and of course the reaction when Matsuri confesses to Soga, and Soga's like, are you fucking kidding me? Where's my rival boy?
It also kind of sets up something for Ryo, because like while Matsuri is like brain weird, Matsuri like fully rejects Ryo with her creepiness, and then she's like crestfallen, and like that kind of affects her role in a chapter following this.
Like, wait, what? Matsuri cannot like me? Just.
And yeah, like Suzu coming up with a plan, and then I also kind of like the ways that the battle elements and the horny elements can sometimes tie together. I think can be like interesting. I can't think of another way to put it. Like, you know, Suzu stumbling in to the scene at the end of the chapter, like with Ryo holding her up. It's like, you know, in a battle manga, it's like, oh, she just came out of a big fight and is like on her last legs, but it's like, nope, it was It was horny stuff.
It's always horny.
And
anyway, sorry, I was ready to move on. Go ahead and keep going.
Yeah, I'm just slowly putting things together. Yeah, Soga's a really good character, I guess is what I'm getting at. Like, anytime Matsuri's kind of acting out of character, be it through, magic means or just, like, emotional stuff, his role as the rival character is so good.
No, yeah, and, like, the way you kind of mentioned it, because, like, obviously he reacts a lot to the horny stuff, but because he also isn't, he's not particularly horny as well, so he also kind of acts like a straight man in that sense of just reacting to it, and yeah, but also keeping Matsuri, like, on as, by recognizing when it's something's off with him and just, respecting him, and yeah, Soga's good. Good boy. But yeah, moving on, Suzu catches a cold, and Matsuri's common love comedy thing. Matsuri goes over to help take care of it. Romance thing in general, I guess, not even just specific comedy.
Another detail I've noticed in the art, I don't know if it started in these chapters or maybe, like, the physical release I was reading maybe, like, tweaked it because, like, they can just show it uncensored. But, like, Yabuki will do this thing where, like, a character, it's like a close-up on an eye, and they're, like, walking in on some horny thing, and the eye is a nipple.
No, because I noticed that earlier when Soga touched Matsuri's boob, he also had the nipple eye thing, and then here it's with Suzu. So apparently you can, because this is the weekly release I'm reading, not the I don't have the volumes scans. So apparently you can draw nipples, just they can't be on a woman's breast.
Yeah.
No, because there was also the infamous the haunted hot spring one where it's like on the opposite page he drew like a nipple shaped thing in like a boba tea, and if you like shone light through the page, it would just show
it's goofy.
But anyway, Matsuri tries to kiss Suzu, and maybe I should forget all these hang-ups about being a boy because I like her and just kiss her. And then he hesitates for about 5 minutes while Shirogane is watching it. Yeah, no, I was making a joke, but it's like, but he's been in that position for 5 minutes already. It's like, wait, no, he literally was just like hesitating for that long, and he just got a dumb expression on his face, dumb little kissy face. And of course, Suzu's like, just fucking do it.
Yeah, and then, from here, it's like, oh, so you do want to do this stuff with me, so now I can, like, just go all out.
Oh, my fever's gone. How convenient. And it's like, you little shit.
And then it's like, oh, this is training.
Yep.
I also just like Matsuri's whole logic of like kissing me in female form is like cheating. Like I can't date you. Just so like traditional and what's the word I'm looking for? The opposite of like open, closed. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean, but and then of course the way Suzu is like, even though Matsuri's trying to keep a lid on it, she's like, oh, I know that you want to do those things with me, so I'm not gonna hold back. I'm gonna keep attacking. Meanwhile, May is doing a training of her own, learning how to kiss, with the fucking Shakespeare ass kissing a wall. That's a thing. And which one was it? It was the Midsummer Night's Eve, I think that's the one. But yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. I just remember that being a thing.
Oh, okay. I definitely
more through a hole in a wall, like kissing someone or something.
Oh,
yeah. So I just brain. And I had to explain it to not seem fucking insane. Like, Craftsdwarf, what are you talking about? Then of course we get an important backstory reveal where Lippy is the one who woke the monster in Suzu by exposing her to relatively lewd things at a young age. And then they have a fucking kiss battle.
Yeah, it's like one of the real points where the world of battle, world of horny just like collides.
But apparently time, so it's fine for Matsuri to kiss Suzu, but now there has to be Shirogane covering the kissing. So, I don't know. The censorship's a little... I mean, like, because, like, I think we were talking about last time how there was some lewd stuff with, Lou and, fucking, Roshka But then, these chapters were a little too far for Viz, but now it's like, this is the original manga having like, okay, these two girls can kiss and it'd be fine. But these panels are too lewd. They need Shirogane covering it. So just a little odd. So
yeah, I don't know if there was any like an interview or anything about why it made the jump from Weekly Shonen Jump to Jump Plus, and I feel like like the horniness definitely ramps up, but also like if maybe the more leaning towards like homosexuality with kind of the way that Matsuri's character develops, like maybe it's okay because like, oh, he's a boy in a girl's body type thing.
Right. Okay. Just weird conservative ideas. That makes sense. No, I hadn't thought about that.
But yeah, I'm just guessing. That's not I don't have a source.
Yeah, because I mean, another possibility that I thought is just like, well, yeah, because I don't think, are there really that many ecchi manga in Jump right now? Because I don't really, hold on, let me look at what's in Jump right now. Because because I was just thinking about how, because now, like, you have, there's so many, Viz has their own official, oh, right, Tachiyama's fucked now, never mind. Never mind. Viz has their official thing, like, that, Japan is aware of, because I remember them talking about how like Kagurabachi was they're noticing how popular it is overseas, because of, not even just because of the memes, that there's people who legitimately like it, of course. But I just had a thought of just how the ways certain there's because there's more awareness of the mass cultural market, there's maybe a shift in like things that are like Shonen Jump, which are more global, potentially to being more in line with the tastes of a global market, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Pixiv, an art website, has had some changes that people are suggesting might be because it gets a lot of foreign visitors, and so just my thought of like, if Shonen Jump is meant to be more global friendly, then reducing sexuality in their titles is a way to make it more global friendly, while also ends up taking away something that is unique and or maybe not unique, but like more common in Japanese works. So just my personal issue with that is just like, we go to these works because they are something we can't get elsewhere, right? So if we remove what those works have that make them appealing, then and just make them more, so that's a potential, like I like getting stories that just happen to be exportable just by being good or interesting or stuff, foreign in some ways, but so that's just another reason I thought, because I did check and there didn't seem to be any explicitly like super ecchi manga, nothing close to this, of course, running in Jump right now, so it's just a random thought I had, but anyway, they talk about how with Matsuri's mom, how they're, because, we've been introduced to the Iyo and the Jinyo as different types of Ayakashi, but they're like, no, even though, there's both monster types and humanoid types, like they even show two examples that were dangerous, but it's like, no, there's ones that, eventually just become, have peaceful and unobtrusive lives, and it's like, oh yeah, you know that fucking really buff sensei? Yeah, he's a fucking Ayakashi and has been the whole time, and it's like, wait, what? I completely forgot about that, honestly.
Yeah, because it's kind of just like this one gag chapter where it ends with Matsuri just like throwing Shirogane. And then it's like, it's all a misunderstanding. Yayo is tutoring Mei.
Well, yeah, because at first they're like, she wants kiss practice because they're fucking horny brained and shit. And then no, Mei is just really, she's 150 years old. She doesn't know math. They didn't have that 150 years ago. Not certainly not high school level math as being commonly known. So she's just the panel of like, oh, this is so hard, and it's just like, it's I'll be patient, and the little blush at the bottom of the page when it's caught. It's just, she's good.
And this is definitely like just seeing Yayo integrated into the story more, and like, she's not a combatant, but she's still finding ways to like contribute to like what Matsuri and Suzu are dealing with.
Yeah, and I also really like how Yayo puts it in the next chapter, where she's just like, because she understands that Mei is she understands May's deal, so she's like, well, I as a regular human, I'm gonna connect with her and help her enjoy living in this world, and which is like, yeah, because she is that normal, typical humanity that 150 years ago might have joined in the exclusion and eventual execution of Shadow May, but or regular May that led to Shadow May rather. But she's good. There it is. How can this box move without horses? The bus.
Also, just like Matsuri wearing one of the outfits that came up like several many chapters ago, and like Suzu complimenting Matsuri, and then Suzu just like gushing over him getting embarrassed.
I wish I could kiss him right now, but we're in public. When has that ever stopped you, Suzu? Coward. And of course then they go eat cake, and
the page turn of just like, you're not gonna win me over so easily. Flip the page, and the first panel is just like, sweets.
Cake, and she's just like, I didn't know that anything this delicious existed except for persimmons. Of course she has Suzu's sweet tooth, right? Like the same person. And then May fucking with Matsuri, and you can see through clothes now, like in fucking Well,
it's also kind of funny because she doesn't know what it does. She's just like, oh, this looks interesting. Right. I'll do that. And she like sees Matsuri freaking out, but doesn't really like, and then her like eating the sweets, and it's like, oh, I can't think straight.
Yep. And, just
so silly.
Until Shirogane is like, no, I think I won today. Just the reaction when they find out what Matsuri was able to see the whole time, and they just both just like, no. This next chapter was good with the Shirogane remembering the little girl. Who was talking about like, all humans forget Ayakashi, and she's like, I won't. I'll never forget you. And then we get some horny with Reo tying herself up on accident.
He's lost so much energy that he can't even stop the shamelessness.
It just turns into an old man.
Then another bit with Ninakuru where he's like, oh, Exorcist ninja aren't obligated to help, Ayakashi. And Matsuri's just like, Suzu would be sad, and I'd be sad. And then he's like,
Wait, no, I wouldn't be sad. No, but then of course even the way he looks at Sogen is like, you should help him because he's already one of us. And Sogen's like, fuck, I can't say no to that face. And of course, Gasp, the little girl, was actually the school principal, and she remembers him, and even as an adult, because he helped her as a kid. Mm-hmm. Of course, like towards the end of the chapter, like, no, we must. Oh no, maybe sure.
Never forget.
Never forget. And I love the fucking them in the sky. It's so silly. But he's the king of Ayakashi. He'll never disappear. Then another little. I like the chapters where they just explore a relationship. That's not between the main characters. So like, Soga and Roshka. And he's like a big brother, which, well, as we find out, he is a big brother. But he's like, small melting child, I will give her ice cream.
Why don't you envelop yourself with cold air? And she's like, oh, why don't I do that?
Dummy.
It is always really funny though, just seeing her outfit, just like she just becomes melt in the heat.
No, she even talked about because it came up before when the heat Ayakashi was the drought one was a thing. Because I remember we saw her melty outfit before.
Mm-hmm. She's just a giant blob.
And then so she helps him keep he uses her ice to keep his feelings cool. So he doesn't because they're swimming and Gasp he's not reacting to her lewdness, and then Ponosuke does a wardrobe malfunction, and Soga doesn't react at all.
Matsuru's like, this kind of makes me feel like I lost.
It's such a good reaction where he's like, well, because I mentioned the comparison last time where Ranma doesn't feel any shame as a woman, and he'll just like exploit that to fuck with people. But this is Matsuri like going in that direction because he's so used to, especially with Soga, like like he's almost gotten to the point where he to at least some degree likes having that effect on Soga if anyone else. So that when he doesn't have their action, he longs for it, and then he's like, "How about this? I'm just gonna." And then the snow wore off, so Soga dies again. Shirogane is so he's how shameless. He's like this is just like, I was just looking at desserts, I swear. Like he's able to sense it across the miles. So dumb. And then we get the gender swapped for Soga, where Ninokuru is a small cute girl now. I definitely lost my shit because I was like, wait, how? What? He's adorable. And then no, it's not actually Soga. It's Haya, his which makes me think of like Hayai because he's also really fast. She's but she's got shark teeth too, and she's small.
Cute. The design sense being similar is very good. It's kind of unfortunate. I feel like of the side characters, she is one that kind of comes in and does very little. I feel like we get this one chapter here, and then she has like a thing of like, oh, I want Matsuri to be my big sister, and then nothing really comes of it.
Yeah, see, as far as like the series ending, maybe I don't think I was explicitly thinking about it, but that is definitely she's definitely an area where it's like, I wonder what more might have come of this character. Maybe she just wasn't popular, which means Japan has no taste, and therefore the author decided to use her less. Because no, she's good. I mentioned that before. I like shark teeth on characters, and she's cute. And she of course comes in. It's like you should have Matsuri as your girlfriend. And Soga's like, what? And Suzu's like, Suzu's just dead. She's dead. She doesn't approve.
I think also I feel like while the conversation that she has with Matsuri over like, oh, what was it like for you turning into a girl? It's definitely like couched in like, there's a lewdness to it. Like, oh, I had to explore my body and blah, blah, blah. But, I do like the line that's like, girls have difficulties that guys can't understand. It's amazing, like what they have to deal with. I feel like that's kind of a good sentiment that it's like, and I don't know that like Ranma would necessarily like appreciate that in the same way, because for Ranma it is something that he just kind of like uses, and like you said, doesn't really feel shame for or embarrassed. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for.
I think I get what you mean. Oh, sorry, I was scrolling ahead, and Haya is practicing with her shuriken and kunai, and she accidentally stabs Mei in the fucking head. Oh no, call an ambulance. And she's like, oh no, I'm gonna have a different kind of fun. So
why did that just make me think of the meme that's like, call an ambulance but not for me?
I mean, yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, just the panel of like Mei in like the little sun hat, and it's like, oh, I was gonna go hang out with Matsuri and Suzu, but also just like the evil eye. It's just like, I like the juxtaposition. It's very goofy.
And of course you follow up when Matsuri comes in, and she's like, so our pretend friendship ends here. And then Suzu's like, have some fucking sweets, you dumbass. And she's like, nope, the rivalry ended with Matsuri. Sweets are my best friend now. It's just completely melts away. And of course, Haya understanding Matsuri more is just like, yes,
yeah,
I want her as my big sister, which is so cute. But yeah, then we get a Reo chapter. I don't think this is the first time we've seen her, cooling herself off with a fan. I feel like we saw that. Maybe I just saw it before because I read the manga before, but I feel like I thought she did it earlier for some reason.
I feel like it definitely, like the joke of Matsuri walking into her room unprompted definitely came up more than once.
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
and yeah, like she's Yeah, she's in a slump, just like very out of it after. Well, I guess it was like Matsuri rejected her, and then there was also the incident with Shirogane where her invention failed. So it's like, things are slowly kind of falling apart on her.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the shit with the kappa, with Matsuri saving her from her own shame, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Matsuri has faith in Reo when Reo doesn't have faith in herself, so she gets her shit together and is able to go back to tinkering and inventing.
Ooh, the next chapter is a really good one. Like, Suzu kind of gets a moment to go like back in time and like reenact the inciting incident of the manga, and like, because Matsuri makes a comment about like, well, if I did become Soga's girlfriend, like, I wonder if that would help him out. And obviously, like, Matsuri just not really thinking of like how that would affect Suzu. Like even just saying something like that theoretically. And so like that kind of leading to Suzu. Oh, I guess this is where the jump run ends. It's 88. But like having an opportunity to relive that moment, and it really, throws it in the reader's face that like, oh, this is the ideal we're striving for. We want to bring back boy Matsuri. And the idea kind of coming up several times that like, oh, well, what if we like either from Matsuri, like maybe I should just give up on, becoming a guy and just like pretend that this is me. And also kind of for Suzu, like there being sort of an inverse, like ignoring, like in this chapter, how it's presented that like, oh, none of this would have ever happened if Matsuri didn't become a girl. But then kind of being confronted with, well, if none of that happened, that we'd lose all the good stuff that like brought us closer. And it's just, it's a good conflict.
Yeah. And no, absolutely. Like just, the appreciating the time that they spent together, and like, yeah, because that is how they got closer, is this big change in Matsuri's, life shook up their status quo, and, in general, just appreciating all that time and not just, rejecting it because it wasn't what she wanted necessarily. And
the way that Matsuri, kind of pushes her away, like, oh, Suzu would never do this because like they weren't close before all of this happening. So yeah, it's just like, yeah, cool kind of seeing that older image of Matsuri and Suzu kind of in conflict with each other. And obviously that comes up again in like a big way a few chapters later.
Yes, it does. And of course, they even, the way Suzu frames it as detours is like, yes, it's more about the detours than the destination.
Yo!
But yeah, Matsuri's birthday is coming up. So
Suzu's the bonus chapter.
Roshka gives her a present that immediately melts. It's like, oh, cool ice sculpture from Switch On Sorcerer, and it's like, oh, that's awesome, and it's like, oh, never mind, it's melted. Reo gives her a lewd outfit. Soga
and
isn't
of course,
able to get the words out.
it only pops up until Soga's there. It's trying to say happy birthday, and Matsuri's just gone.
Unfortunate. And of course, Suzu's ready to give her give Matsuri another present.
I definitely forgot that she had she did the maybe wrapping myself was a little too much as a present.
And then of course Shirogane is shameless. Just I love his sort of like omniscient ability to just tell when shameful things are happening, so he can react. Like she mentally said that, and he just like comes in through the window just to shout shameless, and which it still works considering what was just happening, but it's still funny. So, and he's also shown that ability before, like reacting to something that wasn't even in the area. But,
just like a very cute kind of romance chapter.
Yeah.
And now we're in the deep end. Now we're in a post-Weekly Shonen Jump run world.
And this is to go even further beyond. Swimsuit chapter. Immediately, it's super horny. With the, not even just like what Matsuri's going through, and then that getting Suzu horny, and the shaking titties when it gets is really stupid. And
But yeah, like Suzu now, she probably maybe showed it to some extent in the Jump run, but now it's like I feel like her being attracted to Matsuri as a girl gets a lot more like focus.
Yeah, well, because like I remember you brought up maybe the turning point being like at the end of the last reading where they no, they finally confess to each other. But then yeah, I think especially now the turning point, like not that she wasn't before in this reading, but the turning point is definitely like going to the past and being like, no, I love girl Matsuri, and now it's like there's no restraint, almost no restraint. Like she does have her shame, but it's just like she just put a 1 in that stat, just only a couple of points. But anyway, as speaking of that, after that chapter, young Suzu comes out and she's like, or Kanade is as she asks to be called, and she's like, "Yeah, I ain't about this. I'm out of here." She's just rejected.
Yeah, I guess like the conflict there is also interesting because she is very pushy for like once Matsuri gets split into the two forms that like, I think Suzu should be with the boy Matsuri. And like I didn't even really consider that with like the switch in where it was being published, but like Suzu now starting to show more attraction towards like girl Matsuri, kind of like coming alongside that like separation from Kanade. Not sure how I would read into that, but I feel like there's something there.
Well, I mean, I was just thinking about as you were speaking, I was like, oh hey, no, because I realized like because Kanade, yeah, she comes from older periods of time where people were more conservative about certain things. Well, maybe I don't even know if that's totally true with historic Japan. But even but she also wants to be accepted by humans and never had been really, right? And so Suzu doing things that are generally not considered acceptable gets in the way of that. So which would be homosexuality or being a lewd woman. Neither of those are super socially acceptable. That's I hadn't thought about that either.
I remember also I forget the name of the channel, but like you had linked me the video that they did on fighting gods in like JRPGs.
Yes.
They had done another video about trans characters in Japan. In like video games and stuff. And I thought like an interesting note in that was the idea that, homosexual marriages are still like not legal in Japan. Like, so like there was kind of an interesting point in that video where like, characters sort of like transitioning or like how it was described in the video was like, characters presenting as like a different gender, but then like in like getting that legally changed, it's like a form of conformity in a way, because it's like the deviant part is the like homosexuality because it challenges the system.
Yes, right. No, I was even thinking about that, where just how like with an overall political culture where there's a declining birth rate and fear about that and anxiety about that, and they want a homosexual relationship is a rejection of that sort of communal responsibility, right? That's being pushed on the people by political bodies. So so being like you were saying, becoming trans to conform to one narrative and rejecting another, right? Like that's I didn't know that it was by the same, or I didn't hear about this video, so I should probably check that out.
I think it was also kind of juxtaposed to how like I guess it was also part of a discussion of like collectivism and like individualism, where like outside, like in America, for example, like you're deviating from the norm, like by being trans. It's like you're challenging, like that's shoot, I lost the train of thought, but it's definitely like something. It's a perspective I would have never considered, but I feel like it is interesting as far as like how it applies to these different media and stuff.
And then you would get the full backstory with Kanade being born a sad baby because of course her last memories were fucking being murdered, executed again. She was a baby who couldn't smile. But then she met Matsuri, who just viewed it just naturally with his own lens, wasn't no fear, and made Kanade want to have another chance, and it was good.
I also really like the line where Matsuri's like, "Oh, Suzu used to be like this small back then. You know, I always saw her as being very big because like Matsuri idolized her." Mm-hmm. So it's just a cute little moment.
Yeah. I like when Mei is coming after them, and they're like, there's the one panel where they're hiding and behind a tree, and Kanade is like sitting on Matsuri's shoulders and with her arms up to match the branches of the tree. It's cute.
Yeah. Also, the sort of connection with the character development haircut, where, you know, once Kanade like cut off Suzu's memories of being the Ayakashi medium, that was like then symbolized with like, oh, she cut her hair short.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, it's good. And just like you said, she cut off her hair and also her memories, her old self, her entirely, right? Like that's because it's actually, now that you mention it, it's like because that's usually what I feel like it symbolizes, is like the character cutting off their past self symbolically, but this is like, it's symbolic but it's also literal. It's probably that's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah. Also, just I find it interesting, kind of like with the separation sort of Matsuri, like, you know, there's a male Matsuri inside, like, you know, like the whole gender swap element, kind of Suzu having these sort of split identities, like, you know, having, you know, three parts of the Ayakashi medium. It's sort of like, you know, both characters have these different sides to them. So that, I guess that's kind of like a neat parallel.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, going to the next chapter, unless you have more to say about this one with
not at the moment,
because Kanade does merge back with Suzu. Then we get a Mei chapter with you know, Mei sort of falling victims to some of, you know, of less admirable parts of humanity, but her friends come in to help her, and both human and Ayakashi alike, sort of showing that ideal and helping Mei and scaring off the weird delinquents who were broken into the house. Well, of course, I like how it's like, and then Mei, you know, because of the rumors, Mei's hideout become peaceful again, and then it didn't, because people came in and took challenge videos, and it was eventually demolished, and Mei was homeless. And it's like, oh well, shit. I will never forgive humans, and or Matsuri. So yeah, I was just looking through the next chapter where Roshka confronts Garaku for him, you know, helping Shadow Mei and betraying Suzu Matsuri, and then there's like, I shall punish you, and she like rushes forward, and then it cuts to Matsuri admiring his body. Oh,
I have to confront her pressure. It's like, again, framing like the lewd elements, but like kind of through that, like, you know, like how people have like bloodlust, or like like, or, you know, like in One Piece with like Conqueror's Haki, like people having just like this presence, but then it's like, it's horny. It's just
Matsuri's like, yeah, he's dummy. And then Ungai comes in. It's like, Matsuri, oh my god. She's just like, didn't expect to see that. And Garaku, like, of course, like, you know, was brought in to help Roshka, or Matsuri was brought in to help Roshka, but like, Garaku's the icicle. And of course, Matsuri is able to cool down Roshka. Of course, Garaku just wants Mei to be happy again, and Matsuri is helping with that. So, a heart broken by a human can only be healed by a human. Diplomacy.
Yeah.
I think I remember you tweeting about this next chapter, because it's like, it opens with the image with Matsuri with the sunflower.
Oh yeah, this is where I caught up.
And that's why I remembered it, because it's just like, oh, that's just a wholesome title page, and then you read the chapter and it's like,
yeah.
Oh, a young prepubescent elementary schooler's wet dreams of his, because he saw his sister kissing her friend, and okay. Cause yeah, that's definitely I remember being surprised when I read that chapter, just because I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's pretty horny. You know, it's weird that that one caught me off guard for some reason.
Well, I think it's still early enough to it leaving Weekly Jump that the, it might not have been grown accustomed to the, like, uptick in just general horniness.
And
it also presents like a conflict where Matsuri's busy, so Suzu's like, all right, I'll do this myself. And just her development over the course of the series, kind of like the way she gains power and kind of is able to work in unison with Matsuri. But it's like they work in unison because they can both be like strong on their own in certain situations.
Yeah, no, and this is also the first Gyogos or Gogyosen. I forget what the order is, but this is the first one where they corrupted one of the Ayakashi, right? So yeah, okay, I was just remembering that, and of course, yeah, Suzu wins with the power of horny, where she's instead, I guess because for Rita it was the sort of dissonance between the sister he thought he knew and then the sister he was seeing, and so she's I'll show you your real sister.
Oh god,
the monster inside, and it's like, oh god.
That's another moment where it's like, in like a battle manga, it's like, oh, I'll show you who I really am, and then you bust out a sick power. And with Suzu, it's just ramping up the lewdness.
Suzu Kanade's 1,000 years of lust technique. Just Jesus.
I mean, and like the kind of like the queer aspect to this conflict is also interesting because, like, obviously, Rita saw her kissing Matsuri, and like I see the line like, oh, I'll show you your real sister, and then it's like she's just doing very gay shit. It's like, I don't know. It's like a not coming out of the closet. I don't know. It's something. It's like either you know what I'm talking about or you don't.
I think I almost do, but
I could be explaining it better. It is what it is. This is why I want to make a video.
Yep. But anyway, then after that we get Matsuri and Rita with a very suggestive first page, and then it's like, no, let's go back and explain it, and it's like
it's still weird.
It's still weird. I agree.
I also, actually just looking back at the previous Rita chapter, just the way it kind of concludes with like, thinking that Suzu is like, oh, she's like a different person now. But it's like, no, at the end, it's like, I guess that can kind of, maybe I'm really stretching here, but like with like the gender stuff with like Matsuri and kind of like the Ayakashi and Exorcist ninja world sort of coming all in this like sort of being juxtaposed against each other. It's like at the end of the day, people are still people. It's like Suzu at her core will always be Suzu.
Yeah.
I'll come back to that idea. Maybe I could phrase it better.
For sure. Take your time.
Well, I mean, I think there might be stuff in later chapters that might help it click.
I see what you mean. But yeah, Suzu, or no, not Suzu. Matsuri finishes purifying Rita from his dream stuff. Suzu's like, hey, find my pressure points too. And Shiragone's like, your intents need purification. Shiragone's a good straight man. I don't know. It's just like again thinking about like just the over like especially like the over the top ones, like the end of the one page where he just like Suzu's literally just like looking at pictures of sweets on her iPad because that's a normal thing to do. And Shiragone's just like, shameless. And she's like, oh, no, you're not talking about me. And then of course at the one chapter where the birthday one and where he just comes through the window. It's just funny. But anyway, they go camping and they have a cute camping sorry. I just laughed because I like when all right, let's put up this tent first, and then Lou just like hits herself in the face with the tent pole. And I was just like, yeah, relatable.
Also, that she's kind of, her family's rich, so going on, it's like, oh, it's like a nice camping trip, and it's like, here is all this technology and full course meal, and Lou's just like, no, that's not why we're here, and the other characters are like, I don't know, like, I'd be cool with that. But no, it's a good Kacho Fugetsu chapter.
Yeah, I know what those words mean.
Oh, that's their group.
Oh, gotcha. It's been a while since we talked last. We had quite a few breaks.
That's true. I was busy with the video and other stuff.
Yeah. And I don't like mental like that I don't feel like that name comes up that much in the manga, or maybe I'm just like blind. But I just like mentally, I just don't refer to them by their group name, even though it's that So but anyway, as they're camping, they have some spooky fucking skeleton shit to deal with. And like Lou goes to the bathroom and Yayo can't explain. There's a fucking ghost. Because Lou's not gonna accept it, and obviously she said, "Well, it's an alien," and Lou that would only make Lou more excited to go see it, so she gets possessed.
I also appreciate Yayo being like a wingman, like, "Oh, you two should snuggle, we'll go over here. Shiragane's not here. Go for it." I don't know how aware she is of Suzu's lewdness or not.
Yeah, no, she sets the stage, or at least a stage. But yeah, you have Yu is fighting with the katana, and but she has no underwear, so Matsuri can't fight at his full power like this.
Oh no! I guess my friends will die. There's nothing I can do. It's like the battle handicaps, and it's a creative choice. Yabuki was cooking something when he wrote this. I don't know what, but
and then the way they get around it with Shirogane transforming to protect Lou's dignity.
Yeah.
And then there's also the I will exercise you with respect because you're a soldier who fought these sacrifices for this country. It's like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's a pivot from high schooler in without underwear to respecting the dead soldiers.
Yeah.
It's absurd. And Suzu was just like, yeah, she's just passed the fuck out after all of that. Or maybe she's just not a good morning person, or not a morning person in general. Sorry, I moved on to the next chapter, and Soga's fighting a wall, and he does the Kabadan to Matsuri.
Yeah.
And it's like
how can this situation be turned into the most misunderstandings, the most
yeah, no, oh god, no, because first the sneeze blows Matsuri's clothes off, and then they end up in a compromised position.
Yeah.
God damn it. What the cluck is happening here? That's pretty funny. I didn't notice that before, actually.
I forgot about that. That's a good one. But it turns out the Ayakashi actually saved the village from a landslide, and the Exorcist ninja help it out, and it's wholesome. Everything's good.
Yeah. And so it's also nice because obviously at the beginning of the manga they were Ayakashi exorcists, so they probably would have just exorcised the Ayakashi, and the landslide would caused trouble. But now it's even though they were spending time trying to figure out the problem, they didn't just fucking exorcise it immediately. They were trying to move it. They were respecting its life enough to not just kill it immediately. So because they had that respect, even though they didn't understand what it was doing, because they literally ended up allowed it to save human lives that might have been lost otherwise, just by trying to be more understanding to Ayakashi, which is the way that they've changed from the story and all these conflicts they've gone through, and Suzu's involvement with Suzu. So very good, very nice.
I hadn't thought of it like that before, but that's cool.
And then Ryo's in front of her favorite fan, her biggest fan again. Just she can't help herself. It's always hot in Japan, apparently. But then Ungai gets affected with the Ayakashi energy, and becomes humanoid again. And I don't know. I like how she was just this kind of parrot on Roshka's shoulder. And but it's no, she's actually really fucking dangerous, because she has the fucking laser beams and shit that they vaporize Ryo's hammer that. That melts fucking steel or iron in seconds, moments rather. Yeah.
I also think the development with Shirogane kind of stepping in to save Suzu, and then Suzu I don't know, absorbing him into her, fusing with him, sort of.
He fuses with Kanade so that, they can sort of... It's Ultraman. is what it is.
Oh, okay.
So, because in the original Ultraman series, the main character I forgot the last syllable, but he gets his plane gets hit by a UFO that was carrying Ultraman, and because they're both injured basically, so Ultraman fuses with him so they can sort of symbiotically heal mutually. So it's that kind of thing. Just
okay.
In an Ayakashi sense, I suppose, where it's like because Kanade is able to fuse with Shirogane so that Shirogane can heal, basically. Because later on they split up, and it's like, yeah, I'm healed now.
It is interesting, because Mei kind of gets something similar, where, like, with Shirogane at the beginning of the series, he's like, I want the Ayakashi medium's power, so, like, this would theoretically have been, like, the goal for him, but, it comes about in a circumstance where he doesn't really have any, like, power to abuse the situation. And so it's just a good sign of their, like, and like, even if he did have the power, it's like emotionally they're a lot closer because he stepped in to save her. So, like, it's a good sign of their growing friendship.
No, yeah, I agree. And then also you have Cat Suzu. Like, there's the part where, like, oh, wait a minute, her mind becomes like a cat. We're doomed. She's, like, grooming herself.
I like how the name of that chapter was Meow.
Also, I gotta highlight the one page because Ungai shoots a laser beam at Katsuzu, and I don't know, just the shading because of the light is really intense. Like, it's a horny panel, but it's also like there's so much focus on the lighting of it because of the laser beam. So it just really stands out, and it's just, like, the art's good. The art in the manga is good, and that's just another example. But yeah, and then Suzu rips out the evil energy, the corruption with her fucking teeth.
I thought she was a cat, not a vampire.
And of course, Suzu's in heat. Please wake up. Kanade needs Shirogane as, like, the anti-horny, because they have a mutual kinship there, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mei is avoiding school because she's in love with Matsuri and doesn't want to admit it. While Matsuri's investigating her because, hey, are you causing all this weird corruption that we're running into? But I like when Matsuri just accepts her anger and I won't turn you away. Let me take in all your grudges towards humans. And Mei blushes because she can't handle it.
And Matsuri's windshield was a little too late, so Matsuri's just, like, hunched over at the end, like, pain.
And the next chapter where Lou is trying to take a picture and Mei is like, camera's still scary. Oh yeah, then we get a little flashback with Suzu in middle school, where, she sort of becomes invisible as an Ayakashi due to another Ayakashi, and Matsuri helps her out.
Yeah.
She hugs him and he fucking log jutsus away.
And her having that panel where she's like, I wonder if this is how it feels to be forgotten by everyone. So, like, she's kind of getting the experience of, Ayakashi who have, like, lost their power because, like, they're not as revered as they once were. And I think it's a cool little moment, and I feel like, it ties in very well with her sympathy for Ayakashi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because, she exactly, walking in those shoes and better understanding it. And, of course, there's the hairpin, which came from that exorcism of the power from the curse, basically.
Yeah, and how, like, even when Suzu was cut off from everyone, it's like, Matsuri was still there.
Mm-hmm.
So just more strengthening their relationship. And like, oh, well, I lost my pin, so, like, prove to me that you're right by my side. And the second the pin shows up, Matsuri's like, nope, not gonna do it.
Yep. Ungai coming in for Suzu the wrong moment. But apparently we can't have I guess it's the author's preclusion for cats showing up because Matsuri is also turned into a cat.
Yeah.
So it's like you have cat form Suzu, and now you have cat form Matsuri.
Very different though, because Matsuri becomes like full cat, whereas Suzu was kind of like just cat girl aesthetic.
Yeah, and of course, like Shirogane falls in love despite apparently
strong beings like me don't need love. The king of Ayakashi stands alone. Hey, look at this cat. What's this feeling?
When they try to speak cat with each other, and Shirogane just hears what he wants to hear.
Yeah.
I don't understand women at all. After Matsuri slashes him up. And of course, he finds Soga, who decides to adopt this cat.
Because he's just such a good guy.
Yep, and then washes the cat, and then Matsuri appears in his bathroom, and yes, the curse broke. Wait, Soga's fucking dead. Then next chapter it opens with Haya in a school uniform, cute. And of course, Big Sis Matsuri helping her get through her artist's block, I suppose.
It's also like,
go on.
Yeah, I was just about to say it's like a little kind of Panosuke chapter as well, because he feels useless, but then ends up helping out Ninakuru with the Ayakashi, and yeah.
Yeah, and of course, at the end you have Soga reacting to the drawing of Matsuri and how cute. What were we gonna say?
And the lightning beast getting away.
Rip bozos.
God, the experience of reading Ayakashi Triangle weekly was definitely something. Because some chapters are definitely more just kind of actiony or horny than others. So it was always kind of like a coin flip on like, all right, what am I going to see this week?
The fun. Yeah, no, it's definitely cuz I've been thinking about it with just like me, obviously generally speaking I like to read a manga all at once, but when it comes to the more weekly reading, there are definitely, or watching as well, there's definitely series I prefer one way or the other. Like, I think, episodic manga, I think, have that appeal where it's like, you just get a single standalone chapter or episode, and then, where obviously there's a whole to consider. And yeah, so I think like manga is definitely more episodic, generally speaking, so it does have that kind of feel weekly where I tend to like lose the thread when it comes to reading a more like plot serial manga, basically. Same with like tokusatsu is the big point of comparison, because like Kamen Rider I don't really like watching weekly because it is more of that serial continuous plot line, where Super Sentai and Precure are more episodic. So I feel like I'm more able to enjoy an episode of those because it's just the one episode, even if there is an ongoing story in both of them, of course. But so I feel you. But yeah, Kanade is cat, and she tries to undo the gender swap seal. But of course she's not strong enough, even though she's fused with Shirogane, because he's still weakened as well. And then Suzu comes in, and it gets dumb.
It is kind of funny, just Kanade, whenever Kanade or Shirogane just kind of poof into existence for a gag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or in this case, because he's just, poofs out. Or poof, right, that's what you said. Never mind. Poofs in.
Don't rob me of my consciousness every time.
Yeah, no, the next chapter is sort of exploring that dynamic where, Shirogane is just trying to be himself, but now he's got, Kanade in his, don't bully the insects, don't eat the offerings, and he's just like, is this what you do when there's, they're in class, and you just loaf around? And it's like, well, what do you do when you're in Suzu? And she's like, I only connect when I need to, because otherwise it would be really bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, then of course they do find their kinship, because like in the middle of class, Suzu's like, yeah, I'm gonna touch Matsuri, and
this is that like setting up a power that gets used in the final fight. Yeah, which is Galaxy Brain.
Yeah, it's so fun. Of course, May is like, "What the hell are you doing?" Because May isn't really super lewd either. She's not super anti, I don't think, but she's definitely like, she's in the middle, I would say. But of course, Kanade comes in and she's like, Evoking Shirogane's will, so to speak.
And then Suzu, to everyone else, she just randomly falls out of her seat.
Dummy. I like how it's so in character for her that it's like, yeah, that's not odd. That Ghost just fucking bullied her out of existence.
Punishment served. Retreat.
Sorry, I was laughing because, like, in the next chapter, they give the monster the love potion because they want her to fall in love with Matsuri so that they can undo get all Suzu's power back, basically. And but I love how she's introduced in the chapter where she just gets some sand blown in her face, and oh, nice wind jutsu. It wasn't much. Like, she's just being a fucking dummy and getting sand in her. Oh no, they did drop the potion, so it just happened to fall in her face perfectly. So she just ran into it. My bad. I thought it was sand for some reason. I missed that panel while scrolling through. But it was, I don't know.
She just no sells the effect. It's like, nothing's happening. Yeah, it wouldn't work that easily. And then page turn, like, what's happening?
Why am I peeking at him? Because I hate him, she says with the face that screams otherwise.
Yeah, the whole chapter just like trying to turn it into like, oh no, I'm doing this because I hate him. That's what I'm feeling. Mei is good.
And then Suzu comes in, because Mei goes in, she's on the bath and she's like split between, love potions / I don't want to be doing this, and even Matsuru's like, yeah, this doesn't really like you. But then Suzu comes in and she's like, I'm joining in. She's so stupid.
That panel of her just like munching on whatever sweet she's got there, just like, mind telling me what's going on? Just displeased.
So I went to the next chapter and I just noticed that the Magical Girl series, which has the two characters there, the subtitle is Max Heat, which is one letter off from Max Heart, which is the second Futariwa season. So yeah, I just noticed that. It's not what the whole thing is called, because it's like the translation says Magical Kyoko, Flame, Love, and Friendship at Max Heart, but it's still I don't know, it stood out to me. So
something that I thought was interesting watching the anime is like that Magical Girl character shares the same VA as Doremi.
Okay, that's funny. That probably sounded. Oh no, I think you maybe mentioned that to me a while ago. Because
it's weird. Because To Love Ru is a very different show than Doremi.
Right.
So it's like, on the one hand, I'm like, oh, cool. It's like they have like someone who did voice acting for a magical girl voicing the magical girl character. But then on the other hand, it's like, oh no.
It's like, shield your eyes, like you have to protect the children, even though it's a grown-ass adult voicing daughter.
Yeah.
But it still has that mental, like, because you're making that association, it's like, no, she shouldn't have anything to do with this. But anyway. But yeah, Soga gets bullied for looking like Soga, and Yayo comes in to protect him, and this is where brother, we have an older brother now. They're sisters. They don't actually say that, but I thought it was funny.
I was worried. I had something on my mind. It happens pretty often.
Yeah, Yayo's sisters play with Ponosuke because they're cute. They don't have any preconceptions. They're just like, oh, silly bird. They don't care that he's an Ayakashi. Oh yeah,
it does kind of have like the little like hand wavy like, oh, why didn't they see the Kubire Oni that possessed her before? But it's sort of like, I feel like this makes more sense. Mm-hmm. That it's like the Ayakashi that don't have as much like malicious intent are more like, I don't know, overthinking it.
Well, even like, the fact that the evil Ayakashi like wouldn't want to be seen generally. So, where Ponosuke doesn't mind, maybe, I don't know. Oh, and of course, Soga bringing up his weak will and I still get swayed by him even that time and that time and that time.
Yayo also kind of like apologizes for trying to hook them up before, just having no context on the situation.
I also like because Yayo remembers back when Matsuri was like, oh yeah, Soga Ninokuru's super reliable, and she's just like, is he though? Because he's just like, is this guy okay?
Yeah.
But then of course, they run into another Ayakashi, and Soga exercises it. And yes, he is reliable. Just like literally everything except for Matsu's tits.
Yeah.
Which that's how the chapter ends. Where, oh, good job as usual.
I also really like that full page, like him just like carving through the Ayakashi with like Yayo and her sisters like standing in the background. It's just like, I don't know. It's laid out cool. Very well.
Yeah,
that like
it's also like she's still covering their eyes, of course. So it's a good image.
Yeah, and he doesn't even say anything. He just kind of quietly disappears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's good.
That's why the eye covering caught my attention, because like they're not so like at first she was just covering so they don't see the horrific Ayakashi, because like especially like because they just met an Ayakashi that they liked, Ponosuke, and so she protects them from seeing both this horrifying Ayakashi and the exorcism. Like they're protecting the kids from the darker sides of this world, basically. So it's good. And Yayo blushing as she thinks about how he noticed my concern for my sisters, and is she falling for him?
The man's got to have something to do when the manga's over. Matsuri isn't available.
Nope.
No, I feel like those two characters have a good dynamic, though.
Yeah.
They're goofy in different ways. Like, I feel like Yayo can have a very, like, act first, think later, sometimes, kind of personality. Whereas Soga's much more, like, straightforward, but he gets flustered by certain things. Oh, this next chapter is also a fun one.
Yeah, Moon Dongo.
This is your apron I'm borrowing, and then Matsuri it's just so cute.
Yeah. And then also after that where it's like, oh, these are Suzu Dongo with my life force. So they might taste like me, and for some reason his mental image of taste like Suzu is Suzu bathwater. What is wrong with you? I ruined it. And then,
not the gamer girl bathwater.
That's what. Yeah, that's kind of no. And then of course they got visited by fucking moon people. Who? Oh no, they're gonna take Suzu away. And he says some. I won't give her to anyone. And but no, they're just silly rabbits who are hungry.
Yeah, I feel like it's a very, very wholesome, very cute chapter of just like, Suzu, because Matsuri is very kind of, I don't think standoffish is the word, but keeps more of a distance, so isn't always like the most upfront with his emotions. So, Suzu saying that like, it's nice to hear that stuff, like, if you told me how you feel more often, and of course he responds like, oh, it's too embarrassing, but it's just a good again, like building on their romance, and they're a good couple.
Yeah, and Suzu, like, she's being flirty with Matsuri, but she's not like being super lewd, which is a nice change of pace, because she's like, oh, I'm wearing your apron, or oh, you're saying nice things about me or wanting to protect me and stuff. So just a nice chill chapter.
Yeah, and then the panel on the last page where they're just, leaning against each other asleep.
Yeah.
It's very cute.
After that, we get Mei notices Yayo looking at Soga, and Mei is, she just got the swirly eyes because she's just like taking psychic damage of like, this shouldn't be possible. She's just surprised that it happened. And of course, May's working through her own feelings, where it's like, wait, if the love potion worked on me, that means I also have the heart of a human. And she's like, what? I got rid of that human heart.
Yeah, seeing like the severity of like, how she's initially introduced as like an antagonistic figure and has this very like dark backstory of like, the witch hunt and like drowning at the bottom of a river. But, then slowly kind of coming into this like, shenanigans happen. It's just like, I feel like the tonal juxtaposition of that it's a good progression of her character, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's just kind of this manga in general, where it can occasionally kind of whiplash between, horny shenanigans and then like, here's this really serious concept that like we're working with. And
well, to be more specific, the last chapter we had like, just a nice chill reaffirmation of some things we already knew, but in a wholesome context. Now it's like, May exploring her personality, changes, and then it's like, nope. Then it gets really horny when the kappa sucks him into a bottle with etchy acid that destroys her clothes, while obviously the main three are trapped, and Reo comes in for the assist, because she had the kappa as her friend, as they established earlier. I think I remember you mentioning this one weekly because it was funny, but when they're in the gourd and Matsu's about to use a jutsu, and May accidentally hits him with her tits, and he's like, "What a heavy blow!" And she's like, "That wasn't an attack." Which kind of like what you were saying earlier about the breasts having like a conqueror's hockey. Yes, like that's how Matsu's like responding to it. Like it's something like that when it's really just they're lewd. But this is more in a physical sense. And Matsu, just can't, because Matsu just tries to do another jutsu, and then Suzu lands on him, and he's having a rough time in there, giving Soga so much shit when he's not really that much better.
I don't remember what the chain top that Reo uses is like a reference to, but I remember people pointing out.
Oh, it's what it was Sukaban Deka. She uses a yo-yo to fight, basically. I didn't even think of it as a reference until you said something. It's like, that's probably if it's a reference to anything, because I feel like as far as like anime yo-yos, it's like Sukaban Deka, and then Killua in the one arc that he uses a yo-yo. So there's probably more. Those are just the ones that I think of. And obviously Sukaban Deka is a pretty important and notable title. So it's also a pretty good manga. I liked it, but it's not fully translated, so unfortunate. But yeah, Reo being big-brained, because it turns out like she gets attacked by the kappa, and no, you took a fake Shirikotama that I put inside in advance. God damn it. Which, because it just felt like that's like kind of like a Death Note style play, but just in a lewd way. For this manga, it's just like, okay, all right. And she's able to get the gourd and free everybody and pull the corruption out. And Reo just fucking mission accomplished. She just Reo's her way through it and saves the fucking day. But since she gets the corruption, she's able to learn more about it. Did you have any more thoughts on that chapter as I move ahead?
No, I feel like you covered most of it.
Okay. But Suzu does some waterfall training and finds out that, this is actually really fucking difficult. But then she's like, oh man, it's so cold. And then she sees Matsuri and she's like, oh, the warmth is coming back to my cold body. And she's able to find more power. Even Kanade is like, it's so absurd that it makes me laugh. It's good.
Even the juxtaposition, where like even when she fuses with the other two forms later, like she's she doesn't need the memories of her past to necessarily like control her powers or like get access to them. Mm-hmm. Like it's just purely manifested through her attraction to Matsuri, and this is just a very goofy example of that.
Yes. Meanwhile, Matsuri's mom talks to the Gokyo-sen, and they openly admit to being responsible for the corruption, as she found out from Reo. And apparently the Ayakashi medium is literally the reincarnation of Amaterasu herself. And they have a grudge against her for some reason, because they're pieces of shit. Mom comes back and tells everybody that the Gokyo-sen are were acting on their own, and for their 1,800-year-old grudge. So Kanade explains to Suzu. Of course, also Soga and Reo are like, we're gonna help you. They're not beholden to their superiors. Kanade explains the history, where we find out that people's desire for their prayers basically created Ayakashi, and that also made Himiko into Amaterasu, who the Yin Yang forces exterminated, but then she was reborn, and defeated them basically. So they're still angry about it. Then, of course, they have a little meeting with Ayakashi. Suzu explains everything there. And then while they're talking about how they're dealing with everything, the Gogyo-sen attack Suzu, and Matsuri notices and pushes her out of the way, and she's like, Is Matsuri finally okay with it? That's right. Gender doesn't matter as long as we love. And it's like, oh, no, Matsuri got stung because turns out that's what they wanted, because they understand that aspect of Matsuri's personality, which still hasn't changed as a protector. And Matsuri gets split into guy and girl. And this is where the final arc officially starts. I mean, not that it technically started a couple chapters ago, but this is when I just especially remember this is when we really started talking about it weekly, because it's such an interesting development, and it's literally led to the end of the manga, right? So it's just because even the fact that like the manga is called Ayakashi Triangle, because Yabuki was interested in having these sort of triangle relationships. So now it's like there's girl Matsuri and boy Matsuri who are both in love with Suzu. So yeah, and Suzu's kind of into it. Like their first reaction
immediately
is to fantasize of being with both of them fighting over her. It's like, God damn it.
It's like, I'm in trouble.
No, you are trouble. Shogune. But yeah, then they're arguing about who's the real one. And something about Matsuri's line, if anyone's the fake here, it's you. I just remember, I don't know if you ever played Sonic Adventure 2, but there's that Sonic and Shadow have you're the fake hedgehog around here, Faker, you're the fake. It's just I don't know, something about the dialogue in the game is just really, it's just funny to me, and it stuck with me for so long. Probably because also the cutscene's kind of broken, and the lines will play in the incorrect order, so they'll like talk over each other sometimes. But it adds to the humor of the situation. So I don't know. I just thought about it with Faker, you're the fake. I don't know. But yeah, they're fighting. And then they're wondering if maybe girl Matsuri is the independent Ayakashi, and she's the fake, so she runs away. But boy Matsuri is making the moves on Suzu. And then girl Matsuri goes to Soga's place, and can I stay here? And Soga like loses his shit, and Ponosuke is like foaming at the mouth because he's losing his shit.
I do kind of wonder how some of this came across in like the original language, because obviously like pronouns are a bigger thing in terms of like speech and referring to people in English. So like, you know, the translation starts referring to girl Matsuri as she. So I would be curious how exactly that is like represented in, because like obviously there's still the distinction between boy Matsuri and girl Matsuri, but it's just kind of an interesting thing. And like, you know, as a trans person, like I remember reading this weekly and I'm like, she?
Right, like, because even like, you know, I say girl Matsuri, but obviously like, you know, he still identifies as a man, but it's like, well, how else do we determine the two? Like they need some identifying quality, and it's like, well, I guess we could go with like silver-haired Matsuri and black-haired Matsuri, I guess, but it's just like, that's just awkward.
I do think the distinction of like, you know, referring to them as boy Matsuri and girl Matsuri, I think definitely plays into that like conflict of gender and identity really well, because it's like, you know, the whole conflict is just interesting on its face because, you know, obviously in the beginning of the manga, you know, Matsuri is a boy, but now that it's like over 100 chapters in, it's sort of like, it both like challenges like what is the reader's mental image of Matsuri, I guess, because it's like there's the character we've been following the whole series, and then there's like the origin sort of.
No, right, like, because obviously, like, I'd say to the readers, it's like, no, girl Matsuri is Matsuri. Like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
Like, but obviously to the characters, it's different because, like Suzu knew boy Matsuri for years. Like, realistically speaking, girl Matsuri has been, like, just for a few months, right? So
yeah, and it's like they're both still Matsuri, so it's like, it's a really cool conflict. And yeah, just the fact that the way they're distinguished, like, there's even a point in a later chapter where the boy Matsuri, like Suzu refers to him as that, and he's like, the boy Matsuri. Well, Matsuri originally is a boy, so it's like, why the distinction for me? But it's because, like, you know, they've had all this time together. It's just, it's so interesting.
Yeah, no, like, because the one, like, there's even the part where Suzu's talking to Kanade, and like, yeah, she wants them to become lovers, but also, like, you know, she has flashbacks because girl Matsuri is the one that she's been getting closer to, right? Like, because boy Matsuri very much kept himself at arm's length, right? So he can't just smooze on in and act like he's, even though emotionally he feels the same way, but, like, there's still that disconnect for her, you know, and of course, yeah, girl Matsuri is, like, you know, still, even if she is an Ayakashi, she, you know, like, she's still, like, they care about Ayakashi, so they can't just, like, oh, the fake one should just be exercised. Like, no, they're not going to just assume that. Right, so,
and I also, I guess the other interesting part of that whole dichotomy is the way that, yeah, like, it challenges Suzu's, both, like, romantic feelings and also just the sort of inherent perspective it lends to, like, her sexuality, where, you know, boy Matsuri is back, and it's like, oh, well, you said, like, when we, you know, like, when Matsuri was back to being a boy, that, like, they could date for real, but she's like, you know, it's like, it's a complicated situation, and there's two of you, and yeah, just the fact that she is closer with girl Matsuri, it's just, it's, I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting that, because, like, we saw earlier with the, you know, pool where Matsuri was, when Soga got Rashika's help to overcome his awkwardness, like, there is a level to Matsuri where he likes, you know, like, Soga being into him, because, like, that's, where does he go first? To Soga, like, and then, you know, they're in the bath and it's like, let's bathe together. Like, what would, if you, like, if I can't be with Suzu, like, because again, he wants to make her happy first and foremost, so he thinks, well, okay, if boy Matsuri is already with Suzu, the first thing he thinks to do is to go to Soga, to, like, it's just interesting, who's, like, probably the character he's closest with in the story aside from Suzu, so just, I don't know, interesting choice for him to like, if I have to live as a girl, you know, if I can't be with Suzu, then you know, he goes to Soga, but obviously Soga's like, well, that's not how you really feel. You want to be with Suzu, right? He gets it, and just he just literally kicks her out of the bath, like, fucking table flips her. Get out!
Yeah, it's like Matsuri trying to. It's also kind of a matter of, like, oh, well, like, if I'm the girl Matsuri, then I should act like a girl and, like, play this role, as opposed to just, you know, like, it's, you know, he's lost his way, and Soga calls him out on it. And also just, like, yeah, just the way those two characters' relationship in general, like, Soga, like, even when Matsuri becomes more, like, has the Ayakashi brain thing and becomes more feminine, like, more traditionally, like, doing girly things, you know, that's not the Matsuri that Soga's attracted to. It's like, well, I know he's a guy, but also, like, that's, you know, the aspects of Matsuri's personality are what he's attracted to, as well as, you know, the physical aspect as well. I'm kind of stumbling over myself, like, trying to talk about this, but it's just because, like, I feel like this is interesting on so many different levels for me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. One of the things I brought up in our private conversations about Ranma was that I thought was, because, like, yeah, there are many different angles to look at it from, because you know, obviously you connect to Ranma as a trans woman, but you know, you had people talking about your famous boy tweet with the who are coming out from a trans man perspective, and I even read that into some of the stuff with, like, Ranma's mom, and I was like, oh yeah, that's another interesting way to read the series, right? Like, it's just you know, so this has, like, there's so many, like, it's a triangle. There's deliberately so many different, like, possible connections with the characters that you know, of course you're gonna read a bunch of different things into it. So but anyway, Matsuri goes to, runs into Sosuke, who is become a small butler for Lou, which I'm pretty sure this is the first time that comes up, because I think he just went off to go dick around, basically, last we saw him, and now it's like, yeah, I'm working with Lou, and Maid Matsuri. because they're dealing with a Gorgon type, Medusa type that's turning everyone to stone.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little mini arc within an arc.
Yes, exactly.
I also just like getting the kind of wrap up on oh god, why'd I forget his name?
Sosuke?
Yeah, getting the wrap up on Sosuke's character, just like, you know, that just hit like, I don't know, as far as side characters go, like he might be in my favorite characters because I just like his general progression, even though he's not one of the like characters in the forefront, you know, like a Soga or a Reo.
Right.
That kind of evolution.
Yes.
And, you know, it's Ayakashi Triangle also doing the, like, shonen battle thing where, like, I mean, it might be more than just battle manga, but, like, former antagonists and enemies, like, becoming allies and friends with, like, you know, this character and, like, Shadow Mei. You know, it's cool. What can I say? What else can I say?
Yep. But yeah, Sosuke saves Lou from getting turned to stone. Oh, thank goodness! Only her clothes got turned to stone. Also, I really like the cover page of the next chapter because just I don't know, seeing Shirogane from beneath and just seeing like his little feet on the imagined like floor. Basically, it just reminded me of what you were talking about with the author about how like, you know, that's a mental image of a cat you can only get by like seeing it yourself. I think.
Yeah.
On like, yeah, because I've seen pictures of like, oh, this is what a cat sitting on a glass surface looks like from underneath, right? And just remembering back to how you brought up the author, like, oh, I thought of cats as mysterious creatures until I got one, and they're actually little fucking goofy balls of fluff. And this is definitely a goofy ball of fluff image. I love Matsu's like, me and Sosuke are actually alien buddies, and Sosuke's just like, yes, I'm from the planet Jinyo, just playing along, and yeah, they're just keeping up the joke face or the bit.
And then not Suzu. Wow, way off.
I've done that before, so don't worry.
Lou twisting it like, I get it. You know, I always thought some monsters in mythology were inspired by cryptids. It's like, oh god, she's rewriting history.
And then of course we get, you know, because obviously Sosuke was against humans and liked seeing them in pain, and you know, but now then Lou just like accepted him completely and totally, and you know, that's the same naivete he liked in Suzu, and so he's like, yeah, I'm gonna protect her, and you know, he became full because he had someone to protect instead of you know, where, you know, he lost his hunger before because he no longer saw humans and Ayakashi as something to consume, so now he's just, yeah, he's protecting, and but using his powers of consumption still. You know,
yeah.
too, but without losing. So he still is a consumption Jinyo, but he's not malicious about it.
Actually, this is a really cool. Like, I obviously wouldn't have thought of this reading it weekly, but how Matsuri, you know, is it like the two of them are able to defeat the Ayakashi by Matsuri essentially like sacrificing himself, like turning to stone to. Mm-hmm. Or mostly turning to stone?
No, completely turning to stone, yeah.
And, you know, putting trust in Hinojiki, like a former antagonist, and Ayakashi. And then, like, in the last arc, you know, there's kind of an inverse of that with Shadow Mei and Matsuri, where, like, Shadow Mei has to put trust in a human.
Right.
And it's just cool parallels.
Yeah. Which even fits because Mei was originally like manipulating Sosuke, and then they were both put into positions where, you know, there was a reliance between human and Ayakashi as to Ayakashi who hated humans. So yeah, Sosuke, you know, Mei being forced to rely on humans, and Sosuke being, you know, relied upon by a human. So yeah,
and yeah, that conflict, you know, bringing Matsuri back to reality. That yeah, like, and yeah, paralleling it with Hinojiki, that like, you know, as long as we have the same goal, you know, like I can put my trust in you, and so with Matsuri, it's like, you know, just because Matsuri has taken, no matter what form my body takes, Suzu is still, like, the ultimate, like, thing to protect and what motivates Matsuri. So it's like, as long as my wind revolves around her, I'm Matsuri Kazumaki. And it's a good conclusion to the chapter, and just, like, reaffirmation of who Matsuri is, and also just, like, their dynamic. It's so good.
Yeah. Also, I like the next cover page because we've had girl Matsuri, but also now we have boy Suzu, and they're all in, like, suits, and Matsuri's in a dress. Reverse escort for Matsuri. It's I don't know, lots of good cover pages. Fucking Soga on the roof talking to boy Matsuri, and he looks down and that smile looks nice on you, and we get a nice panel of Soga. We see his eyes in full.
Yeah.
He's like, what was that thump noise I just made? My heart. He just goes to fucking jump off the roof or something, I assume. No, he's just being sad on the railway. Reo, getting horny for boy Matsuri's smell.
Oh, right. I also had a thought that I could have mentioned in regards to just the whole, like, identity conflict with Matsuri. This is me kind of just, like, inserting, like, my own knowledge and personal experiences of just, like, Matsuri kind of losing his own sense of self. It's just kind of like I draw parallels to, how sometimes, like, when like trans people transition, you'll get kind of the sentiment of, like, oh, like, I'm gonna miss the old you, or I liked the old you. And how it's like, who we are at our core is still the same, even if it's, like, other aspects changing. So Matsuri kind of having that own, like, and there is kind of that thought of, like, what was the old me like?
Yes.
Am I leaving that behind, or, like, what? I'm not explaining it very well.
Well,
but...
I think one example I was thinking of, I don't know if you brought up last time or in private conversations, but we've talked about, like, how the parts of you where you were a man are still a part of you now, right? Like, like you brought up, like, oh, who is the old you? Like, well, because this is the you that you are now was also a part of you then, right? Like that's and you're just letting that part more out in a sense. So, like, that's an aspect of it too.
I was a fan of Hunter x Hunter then, and I'm still a fan of Hunter x Hunter.
Yes. And I guess personally speaking is because I've had instances of that, like with my dad, who's just like, he said, like, oh, I know who you are, I just don't know who you are when you're on the computer. And in my event, it's like they're the same thing. And I was just thinking about, like, how online spaces have helped trans people find communities, but lots of people in general too, because you're able to find more, because my dad's mental image of the internet is it's a place where predators and, like, catfishing and lies, like that. It's the internet is for liars.
Yeah.
In my experience, the internet has been a place where I can be honest and meet people who are being honest, right? Because that's been my experience. When I meet these people in real life, they're just the same people I've known online, but they have a face now and they're talking at me.
Yeah.
And that's the only difference, right? So just like that's how I connected my experience with what you said. You
can definitely
very different, obviously, but.
You can definitely apply it to way more than just even, like, the trans experience, because it's like people change as life goes along in all sorts of different ways, and so it's like, the person you are now is that the same person you were 10 years ago. What changed? But it's like you're still you at your core.
I just realized this is a really dumb connection, I guess, a personal one, because the line you brought up of, like, oh, I'm going to miss the old you, right? Where it's like, that's kind of a weird thing to say to someone, because, like, well, what did you like about the old person that you like, right? So I had an instance where, because I wrote fan fiction, and when I started my YouTube channel, there was someone on fanfiction.net who kept messaging me as to when I was going to write something else. Right, and then I remember linking them like, this is what I'm doing now, and I linked them my Euroline April video, and they were like, you're making reviews now? Like they didn't like the new me, they only like the old. Like really, it was just obviously very different from the trans experience, right? I'm just shifting interests, like a creative outlet basically. I'm not writing fanfiction anymore. I'm making YouTube videos, right? So, but they didn't like the new me. They wanted the old me back.
Yeah. Or like, you know, occasionally years ago we'd get some comments from like people who were a fan of my wrestling videos.
Yes.
Like, oh, when are you going to go back to making that? You know, and it's like, I'm doing this other stuff, and it's like, well, that's not what I followed you for. And
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So there's an example where it's kind of more applicable. But it's still that's sorry, my brain just went there, and I was like, I should share this. This is funny.
No, yeah, it's a funny story.
But anyway, so yeah, girl Matsuri challenges boy Matsuri to actually other way around. Boy Matsuri challenges girl him. And they this isn't confusing at all. It really isn't, because it's a visual medium.
Yeah.
So you can very clearly see, like, they have such clear designs and the art's good that I would never mix them up. But speaking about it is a little harder.
Him. Yeah,
exactly. But anyway,
that's so funny.
Suzu butts in the way. Well, okay, first Kanade literally butts into Suzu and been like, hey, idiot, do something.
They're fighting over me. This is exciting.
She's so stupid. And anyway, so she gets in the way, and it gets even dumber somehow, as the manga is ought to do. And she loses her clothes and stops both of them because
it's like that one chapter earlier on where Shadow May is like, oh, I'm tormenting Matsuri. Suzu's gonna be like appalled, and it's like, wait, she's getting excited. Wait, hold on, I don't.
Backfired. Joke's on you. This is my fetish. Literally, that's what it is.
The recurring gag of Suzu just constantly defying expectations is like great.
Her horny power level is maximum, and nobody is prepared for it. And also at the end of the chapter, they like love triangle, but it's also an Ayakashi triangle.
Yeah.
Because Suzu obviously has a close tie to Ayakashi. As we find out, boy Matsuri is literally an Ayakashi, and girl Matsuri is only a girl because of an Ayakashi. So it's an Ayakashi triangle. Yay! Clap, 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 clap. All right. I don't know if you heard it over the things. That's why I said it.
Oh yeah, no, Discord is weird about that. I also clapped and Discord didn't pick it up.
Oh, that's great. So the audience got a bunch of clapping, but Discord didn't. So.
Oh right. Another thing I didn't mention earlier with the stuff with Matsuri's identity, like just I guess the other side of that, like, oh, I like the old you, that kind of line of thought is just like, this. I mean, and everyone can kind of have like a side or an aspect of themselves that maybe people might think it's like, oh, it's better if this isn't here. Like, in this manga, it would be like the lewdness could also be factored in. That just like Matsuri having the sentiment of like, if the boy me is back, then it'd be better that I'm gone, right? And just sort of that insecurity people can have is,
Yeah.
Meant to bring it up earlier, and I forgot.
All good. But yeah, Reo wants to examine the Matsuris, and I didn't even notice, because like you have the cover page which has like Dr. Reo with Nurse Suzu and Kanade, and then they actually put on those outfits in the manga. Like I only just noticed, like, wait, no, that's like glasses. Dr. Reo, like, just, because you get a lot of, like, the pinup style, like, they're wearing this outfit now, but then this is like, oh, yeah, no, they're literally also wearing it in the chapter. I didn't notice before. And, of course, Reo's techniques are lewd. I like because, like, they're getting attacked by the slimes, and then you have a panel of Suzu being, like, shocked, and Kanade is, like, priming her butt to do her, like, butt tackle that she normally does. And she's angry, and she's like, no, we're still taking the data. But yeah, Reo fails. So May is gonna act. And she finds Boy Matsuri when he's alone, and finds out that, oh, yep, he's not real. He's meant to, he's a weapon to destroy the Ayakashi medium, as, Mei finds out being a part of the Ayakashi medium, nearly getting destroyed herself, and Boy Matsuri isn't even aware of his nature,
Yeah, I think I talked about it a little bit last time, but just, like, really good, like, page layouts and composition, good art in the manga, like that one page where it's kind of like Suzu standing between the two Matsuris, sort of like back to back. The yin and the yang.
Even noticing, actually looking at it now, because like Boy Matsuri's in the dark, because he has dark hair, but also he's the one connected to Gogyo-sen and their corruption and shit. So, as they directly show later in the chapter, but and of course, Mei is wondering, like, why did they need Boy Matsuri to destroy the Ayakashi medium? Mei is sneaking around, so she, like, shrinks down and flies on a black origami crane, and Lou is like, an alien just flew by on a UFO, a paper crane UFO, and Yayo's just, oh, silly Lou. Boy Matsuri takes off his shirt. Oh, so you can draw boy nipples, huh? Okay. Sexism in action. Jump only censors girl nipples. But yeah, that's it. Mei is able to figure out how the Go-Go-Sen is trying to act. God, I love the way that comes into play later, but I'll wait. I'll be patient, unlike Suzu, who has no restraints.
They had to put a check on Suzu's... I like how there's even, like, when she tries to be wholesome later, like, Kanade calls her out for, like, what about that stash of Yuri manga you have? But then just, like, having this moment here where she's just like, so this is a man's appeal. It's like, gotta remember her origins.
Also, I say, like, I'll hold myself back, but, like, 9 times out of 10, I am unable to hold myself back, and I'll just talk about it now instead of later. So...
I feel like that was a lot of the last discussion. I feel like I said a lot of what I could have said here.
I mean, this one's still over, as far as recording time, it's over 2 hours, even though, So,
regardless, I have a lot to say.
Mei's mostly struggling with, like, I don't want to be, like, an ally to them, so she's like, don't tell, and then she ends up sneaking into... Matsuri's bath while naked. And you are my minion now, she says with a blush on her face as Matsuri is distracted.
And it's another conflict where Yayo is able to come in and contribute a little bit. Because, she's the one that says, like, well, you could talk to Matsuri. I can't really help with Ayakashi. And, Yeah, and Mei already goes to a human, and, at least the human helps out, rather, because, she notices Mei is troubled and is looking out for her. Good Yayo. So then you have the boomers talking. Where it's like, I heard a game called bowling is popular among the youth. We need to capture Suzu Kanade's heart with what they call a date. And then I propose this aquarium facility. And there was even an interesting part I noticed here, because he says, I fail to see how looking at seafood could be captivating. And I just sort of noticed how it's like they're so distanced even from their own humanity that they're literally like, they just see everything around them as like tools to exploit, basically. They don't even see like, oh, they're just looking at fish. They don't. Referring to it as seafood, like, as opposed to just like what the creature. Exactly, it's not an animal. It's not a something resembling a being. It's not life. It's just something to be exploited by them, basically, right? So I guess, which also they're kind of the extreme of the because the whole ninja thing is like they're shinobi as tools versus shinobi as people, and they're very much like emblematic of that sort of mindset, in that they just see everything as a tool, right? They have no humanity whatsoever. They just they're just all about exploiting things and basically taking advantage of the mindsets that Soga and Matsuri like would have at their worst, so to speak, of being sacrificing themselves as tools. Well, that's what the Go-Sen wants of them, right? So it was just a little like
little weird line that I just noticed, and I was like, hey, that's actually kind of interesting. So, Matsuri and Mei talk where, Matsuri is just letting Suzu go out on her own, and but Mei is like, I want to trust you, and you did tell me that I was the real one. And May's like, no, I wasn't helping. I'm not a good person. I'm not helping you. May's funny. Yep, and there she is freaking out about the train and more steel boxes. And I love watching, because Matsuri has to distract Kanade, because she's like, I won't let you ruin this date, and it's like, no, we're here for unrelated reasons, and they get distracted by the jellyfish. What kind of Ayakashi are these?
Matsuri just like using that prior knowledge about Suzu to like keep them,
distract her alternate versions basically. Because Suzu liked jellyfish. Why wouldn't they?
I like just Matsuri's like low detail face in the background trying to sneak away.
It's good. But Suzu's working through that awkwardness with Boy Matsuri and ramp it up, and he's like, I want you to kiss me right here and now, and just the impact, like bubble, like explosion on her like lower torso where she's like, oh, she's turned on, she's ready, and she's like, oh, of course.
I also, took note of the line where she's like, oh, look at these fish. It says their males can change into females, kind of like you two.
Yep. Oh my god, I was just like thinking, hey, cats like fish. Wait, she turns into a cat. She wants to eat Matsuri's. Sorry, my brain went into some weird ass directions. And of course, Shirogane should come for me, I guess, because I'm shameless, apparently. Because I just like look at like she's about to kiss Matsuri, and he comes, Shirogane cannonball, and just,
it is funny because like his form is just so like marshmallow that he really does kind of just form into a cannonball. Like you don't even see his other like feet. It's just
yeah, he's just smooshed.
Oh yeah, the start of the next chapter, everything's composed of two opposites, a yin and yang, sun and moon, body and spirit, male and female, and it's like, that's the series.
Of course, Matsuri's like, if I destroy him, I destroy my manhood, where it's like, he's basically a ticking time bomb, but also, he is a part of Matsuri, and they don't want to just exterminate that. And now, like, Matsuri's like, I'll hog Suzu all to myself, so Boy Matsuri won't get the chance. And just using those seduction techniques to fuck with Suzu.
Well, because Matsuri knows how Suzu operates. Even if it's like he is very like straight-laced, so he like maybe initially wouldn't have thought of things. But, like, now that he's gotten a lot closer to Suzu, it's like, Matsuri knows what works.
Yes, and, there's, like, and even Boy Matsuri is like, I had girl Matsuri, or I had Suzu yesterday. I almost said, like, girl Matsuri, but then I was, like, almost corrected myself, like, girl Suzu, and it's like, wait, no, there's this manga got me all fucked up. But yeah, he steps back, and then Matsuri is just unconstrained, and then to the point that Suzu's like, oh god, something's wrong. I've just realized I'm gonna, hurt you by getting close with Boy Matsuri, so I just won't do anything, just harem protagonist mode. We're gonna have a nice, wholesome friendship, and Matsuri's just like, wait, no, this is...
Matsuri also, like, leaning into that femininity to, like, seduce Suzu is interesting.
Yeah,
because it's kind of like, how Ranma would occasionally use, like, his female form to, get what he wanted. But, like, with Matsuri, it's, like, it's not quite so, like, disconnected. Like, I don't know. It's like he's I don't know. Yeah. I thought I had a good point.
He is more comfortable with his femininity now, even, like, because, like, I mean, I even noticed, like, there's because like compared to the time when he thought he was a girl, like that there he wasn't blushing at all, but here it's like he is attracted to Suzu, so there's like a little blush while Suzu is like fucking melting. Right. So but anyway, the Gosen attack. I do want to pat myself on the back a little bit for not fucking up too badly pronouncing Gogyosen like a Hogyoku. Fuck, I did it again. I can't say
I don't even remember what it is.
It's from Bleach. The Hogyoku.
Is it
the little
Hogokyu or is it Hogyoku?
I think it's Hogyoku because I haven't gotten to the part in Bleach where where that comes up again, but I just can't pronounce that one for the life of me. But Gogyosen is a little similar, but I mean, it doesn't have the I don't know, maybe something about the last syllable being sen instead of ku is because I want to say q I guess instead of ku, but where I won't say sien instead of sen, so I don't know, maybe that's where it is. It's just like I'm glad I can pronounce this word correctly at least. We haven't had a crafts can't pronounce this for shit in a while, so
I guess maybe thinking back to the point I was trying to make earlier about Matsuri like leaning into that femininity to seduce Suzu, it's like I think maybe the difference between the two is that, like, with Ranma, like, that's not really Ranma's body. Like, it's like a transformation.
Or it's presumably a drowned girl that from 2,000 years ago or whatever.
But yeah, like, he doesn't feel like, he's a guy. He doesn't feel like that's not his, like, it's his body, but it's not his body. Whereas, like, with Matsuri, it's like he's had so much time in this form that it's like that is Matsuri.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I guess like embrace. I don't know.
Yeah, no, because Ranma does switch between them very regularly. So where obviously Matsuri has no choice for them basically. Like even when he does become a guy, or no, I guess did he ever? There's been a couple like in the dream. It's not like he had a choice there. It was just something that happened.
Yeah.
So but anyway, Suzu is entering her wholesome arc, so she deletes all of her adult bookmarks and didn't get rid of all of it though. She still has a little gay Yuri books hidden under her bed apparently. So she can't become completely pure, but she tries for literally all of 3 minutes before she has to go rescue Lippy, and that turns into a whole thing. And even is this one of those love hotels? No, I can't think about weird stuff. I'm wholesome now. And then she gets caught up in the love prison where Boy Matsuri is, and this is definitely such a standout chapter because it's so and just because the Gosen, they have that more traditional conservative mindset, so they're like, no, this we'll seduce her, and it's like, no, because it's like, wait, what? She's not hesitating at all with kissing Boy Matsuri. She's nothing short of a beast. And she's taking over top her coat, and there's a lion. And then she goes to the shower, and it's like, we literally don't need to do anything. And so the funny part, this is where Ayakashi Triangle clicked for me. It took fucking 132 chapters out of 144 chapters, right? But and it clicked for me in a dumb way because one thing I like thinking about through media is how we engage with rules and systems in some ways. And so what you have here is you have the Gogyosen, who they represent a patriarchy, right? They literally are really pissed off that they got destroyed by a woman 1,800 years ago, and their grudge is just that long, because a woman made a fools of them, basically. That's what they're pissed out about. That's what pissed off about. That's what they're fighting for, basically, right? It's so fucking petty, right? And so like we talked about earlier with Japan having this sort of, push towards, making children, right? Heterosexuality, where in that way homosexuality becomes counterculture. And so here you have a patriarchal group using heterosexuality as a weapon, because if Suzu goes, she's literally at a crossroads, and if she goes the hetero route, she will literally die, right? She will be destroyed which is, it's hard not to think about what Japan's going through. And so then you have obviously the option with Matsuri where it's I just literally thought wait, hold on, they're using youthful indiscretions, but like that's the other thing is like you have the shonen of like, you know, young person existing within a corrupt system and having to find a way, you know, to navigate that, right? Like you have like Naruto and Bleach where they kind of fix it, or you know, challenge it and find ways to fix it from with the inside, or Luffy just fuck it, burn it all down, you know, and then so here you have like, yeah, it's just that, except it's, you know, homosexuality and heterosexuality, but like youthful, you know, indiscretions through Suzu, who's again, even excluding the homosexuality thing, she's not exactly like a quote unquote ideal, you know, picture Yamato Nadeshiko type, right? Because she's so lewd. So, and that's where it clicked for me. It's like, wait, hold on, this is what they're doing here, and I just had that like moment of like, this is what gets me into the manga, and because like, yeah, rereading it, like, no, it was always good, but you know, I just needed to read it all at once to get that. But this is where I just started to go like, wait, hold on. This is actually really clever. You know, not that it wasn't before. It's just I really wasn't picking up on it or paying much attention to it because I'd read a chapter and think about it for like 5 minutes a week, and then I'd wait until the next week. So yeah, this is where it started to click for me. It was like, oh, there's some interesting stuff going on here, and then rereading it, it's like, oh no, there's a lot more interesting stuff going on here. So that's my perspective. You know, and that's also. Sorry, go ahead. I'll say my thought.
You can finish your thought.
Okay, I was just gonna say, like, because going back to like what I was talking about, how I feel like personally speaking, like rereading a whole series is good for me. That's because like, yeah, because it took me. Let's put it this way: it took me like 14 volumes for the series to click with me. Right? That is way more than most people would give anything. Right?
Yeah.
Like I literally this was a manga I just happened to be reading weekly, and I just never stopped. And then it ended up becoming, it got more interesting to me, and then I reread it, and now I really like it. You know, even though it's not a personal favorite, but I still think it's good and interesting, and I'm really excited to see your video on it because you've already had plenty of good and interesting things to say, and I'm glad that I was able to offer a few more. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it's just like, because, that's just another reason, you know, because, like, sometimes, you know, we have, like, the 3-episode rule, you know, where it's like, you know, oh, if the series hasn't clicked with you by then, you know, it's probably not worth your time. But I will give things my time, even if I don't like them necessarily a lot. And then here's a series where that, you know, it paid off in a way because it clicked with me, and I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I will add that I think the fact knowing that you liked it so much also helped because, like, even if I didn't really know why, because we didn't really talk about it in depth very much, just the fact that a friend that I respect also likes this thing, that makes me more interested in hearing that perspective. And, you know, so what were you going to say?
Well, yeah, like, I remember reading this weekly, I had, you know, been reading for months weekly by this point. And so just, like, getting to the chapter where it's like, oh my god, this final conflict is gonna, they're in the ruins of an old love hotel. That just, like, blew my mind. I think I tried to kind of make this point in the last discussion, but I don't remember if I did a very good job. I feel like, you know, you mentioned like the patriarchy being kind of represented, and, you know, the way that it, you know, heterosexuality is kind of like in conflict here. I think like because a lot of the time, you know, people like to talk about like the male gaze and media being made for like a, you know, predominantly male audience.
Yes.
And I mean, I think you can definitely still look at this manga that way because like it's published in a shonen magazine, written by a man, you know, like, and some of the sexuality, it's like it can definitely be viewed that way with how it's presented. But like having Suzu's sexuality so foregrounded, I feel like, I don't want to say that, like, there are definitely other series that do that, but I feel like it's kind of you know, especially seeing it in like a Jump manga, which is like a series that or a subject that, you know, we've been reading Jump manga and other shonen battle manga of this type for years at this point.
Yes.
And so seeing like, you know, a woman's sexuality through Suzu being like represented in it, like it's like her empowerment. It is her literal, like, the source of her powers and how she gets stronger.
Yes.
Whereas, you know, it might be something that's like, oh, women are supposed to be like, you know, pure and like, you know, they're to be protected. They're to yada yada. But, you know, here is a character who is very like upfront about not being that, and that like her sexuality is like a weapon. It is her strength. I just feel like that's a really kind of impactful thing to see in a manga like this.
Yeah, well, and just to piggyback off of something you were saying, that more less related to Ayakashi Triangle, more just something I've just been thinking about a lot in general. Because yeah, it does. Even if it, there is like a level of like appealing to men and being written by men, there's still a way this series can appeal to women, right? And maybe you can connect, like maybe Suzu. There's some women who can connect to Suzu that they might not be able to find in say a shoujo manga, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Like, which I'm not going to say like, oh, shoujo manga doesn't have this. I don't know. I haven't read that many because and the ones I have, I wouldn't say like I've never seen a character as horny as. I mean, let's be real. I haven't seen that many characters as horny as Suzu in non-Ayakashi Triangle manga. Like, and when I do, they're usually like the pervert characters. But even then, like Suzu's presented, she feels different in a couple ways, even though she's also a pervert character. But I was just thinking about how like, just in general, because again, we do live in a patriarchy. There's like. Shoujo manga, or not shonen, shonen manga are kind of like shonen and seinen are also just seen as general manga for general audiences because they're so popular that, you have instances of like where girls are reading series targeted to guys and finding their own appeals in them, basically. So you have it, like, they have to find ways to exist in this patriarchy by taking the things that are made for guys and finding their own personal way to enjoy them that, like I think, Fujoshi, right? Or like Bleach being really popular with women, right? Like it, guys liked it, of course, but also there was aspects about it that appealed to girls that some series didn't have, right? So I don't know, that was just, you just made me think about these things, and just, cause it's just a topic I've been bouncing around in my head a bit for a while because it's interesting to me, but yeah.
Yeah, I think also, I just kind of had a thought. I remember the video is not on YouTube anymore, but I remember back when Hazel had made her video on Stop Hibari-kun, there was like a little aside in there about kind of like the demographics and how like, like because this is like a shonen magazine and a lot of boys would be reading this, even if it's like, that's the target demographic, but it can be anyone. As far as like the stuff with Matsuri, like or even just the way the primary characters in this, like Suzu and Matsuri being the two main characters who like have, developed the most and in the end, are like they're the strong couple. I think like the almost kind of removal of masculinity in that, like, because like Matsuri eventually resolves to, it's kind of like that sort of like the story will continue kind of vibe where it's like, I'll stay a girl for now at least. I feel like, that can have its own, like, to go very black and white about it, like, and purely on my experience, like I, got a big part of why I got into anime and manga was that shonen battle, like, demographic style. And so I feel like seeing, and especially because, like, the demographic, like, I don't know, as, like, a trans girl now, it's, like, seeing this in a shonen sort of setting where it's like, oh, this is for whatever, like, I don't know. I feel like it connects with me because I don't know. I lost the point.
I mean, yeah, I think I see what you're saying where it's like, well, because you brought up a point about like, getting rid of the masculinity. And I sort of thought how, when I hear about sort of the some of the cross-gender stuff, like I remember hearing, so in the 70s, there was a big like social movement and there was sort of a masculinity part to that movement. And I remember because a bunch of guys who didn't necessarily connect to that masculine part ended up reading shoujo manga. They were more interested in like a female perspective. And then conversely, you have women like Fujoshi, for instance, who they end up getting interested in works that have basically you have men avoiding masculinity and you have women avoiding femininity, right? And I just remember thinking that's kind of interesting because I think nowadays, like, you have cute girls doing cute things series, like, K-On! And Hinamaru Sketch. K-On!, I don't actually know who K-On!'s author is, but I know, and Hinamaru Sketches is a woman, but I'm sure some of these series are made by men for men, right? With entirely containing young, girls as characters, right? So, and obviously, yeah, like you still have Fujoshi, and like you have girls getting into shonen manga. So I don't know, it's just interesting, just some related thoughts that I had also been thinking about.
I think maybe a more like complete constructive way to put it is like, because of demographics and stuff. Like I feel like a shoujo manga might depict a character like that differently, and like identity and breaking gender norms and things like that might portray that subject matter differently than a shonen manga or a seinen manga or a battle manga versus a slice of life or that kind of thing. So it's also like because part of why I got into anime is because of these kinds of like shonen battle, like action adventure type stories. Seeing this sort of subject matter tackled in a story that is, like taking inspiration from and playing into a lot of those similar elements and story structure and things like that. Like I can't not say that this is a 10 out of 10, even if it's like no work is flawless, but like this just hits on too many interesting things for me personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely get it. But yeah, moving on a bit, Matsuri runs into Lippy with Shirogane, and they have a little I guess it's a fight, question mark?
Yeah.
And they, of course, who was practicing with Lippy, has no interest in romance, as she says, comes in to help. But nope, she's lying. She's like she's wrong. She also gets hit with the Lippy's power of aphrodisiac kind of arousal.
I guess like what I also really like about this arc is how it does take all of these different elements of the story, the battle parts, the ecchi parts, the romance, the sexuality, the yin and yang, like Exorcist Ninja and Ayakashi, and just like pulls it all together. Like, even though it kind of feels like the story gets to a pretty like, oh, we're in the final arc now. I feel like it wraps it all up in just I don't know. I think it's great.
It definitely does. Yeah, it gets a lot done. But I was just going through and I just realized something about the Go Sen, because I've been talking about for a while now about how Suzu being a pervert is kind of like generally not looked on well, as I understand it. And what I just realized is because, like, why would they be apprehensive towards Suzu? And like the whole goal is to have Boy Matsuri and Suzu have sex so that she can die, basically, right? But like you have they compared it to they would say like she's getting on the bed and she's like, it's like she's like the predator and we're the prey, and then so Boy Matsuri goes to shower and Suzu follows and gets pushed out, right? So it's like as men they're unwilling to let a woman be aggressive and be superior in a sense, and I was like, oh yeah, because so it's like even if it literally helps their goal, Suzu is literally helping them, and they're like they're so fucking petty, they're so hung up on their toxic masculine pride that they just can't let her have any advantage over them or be put this like they want to be in charge, they want to be aggressive, they want to be in control. But Suzu's too powerful. So it's like even before the final battle, her shamelessness is her power. It's literally protecting her because they're so petty. And of course the chapter ends and it's like, if we're going to cross the line, it has to be with all three of us. And it's like, they're just like, I love the way it'll draw their like face masks, but with the sweat drops. Because it's just, they're like, fucking silly. She's completely serious, big lion roaring in the background, as she's just sitting there with the towel on. And see, there it is. Now it's like they try to get caught. They try to be aggressive because that's what they want. They want to be in control. And so Boy Matsuri pins down Suzu. I almost said girl Suzu again, which is just um, and that's when she realizes, wait, hold on, this is wrong. And
oh god, and there is that comment by Matsuri's mom way earlier in the series about like, oh, Matsuri's the passive type, so it's like, you know, the Go-Go-Sen are like try to be aggressive, and it's like, wait a minute, that's not Matsuri.
Yeah. God, and I like because I'm pretty sure Matsuri before used a kiss. Yes, that's right. He kissed Suzu and used that as an observing fan. So, but here you have Mei doing it because she practiced with Lippy, so she kisses Lippy for which her overcoming her own aversion to lewdness becomes part of the battle as she kisses Lippy, and Matsuri comes in to use Mei as an impurity absorbing fan. It's so good.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about like how it being resolved with a kiss is significant because like when Matsuri did that with Suzu, it was to
to stop Mei.
It was to stop Mei.
Oh God.
And yeah, so like I also said earlier, how Matsuri's conflict with like the snake Ayakashi, like the getting turned to stone and stuff, like putting trust in an Ayakashi that then gets mirrored by Shadow Mei, putting trust in Matsuri.
Right, which is so important considering it's fucking Mei, right? The one who hates humans the most, but ultimately, using, helping Matsuri to help an Ayakashi, right? Or using Matsuri, that like, yeah. My words got messed up there, but hopefully my meaning got across. But anyway, now we have boy Matsuri fighting girl Matsuri again, but this time for real. Mei comments on how Matsuri's prepared to do away with his own masculinity or her own masculinity, their own masculinity.
Yeah, that's the thing with like in the translation, like the pronouns. Yes. It's kind of like once the two are distinguished, it's like Matsuri just is generally referred to as like girl and she. So I'm like that's I guess kind of why I'm curious if that does like if there is something similar in the original language or if that's purely just from the,
as we've talked about, it's just much easier in Japanese to refer to characters with a gender neutral language compared to how it is in English. So for sure, because it very easily could just be gender neutral for a lot of this, but for both of them even, but unless it needs to specify which one is which. But anyway, I like how they're fighting, and boy Matsuri brings up like her weapons grade shamelessness, and but girl Matsuri is like, she may eat a lot and have dummy thick thighs and sweat and be a pervert, but that I like her in on all of her imperfection, and it's like, oh, how sweet. And even though
and also the line about because Matsuri idolized her much,
so him becoming,
and so
yes,
I guess that also kind of tying into the lewdness of it, that like Suzu's not this pure innocent girl, like she's not an idol or a goddess, but that it's like she likes her in all her imperfection. Yes. It's
and ultimately that's what breaks boy Matsuri, and he can't because he has all those memories too, and once it's those those are brought up again, he's exorcised me, and that's when the Go-Gyo-Sen take control. But of course, that Suzu wrath unleashed. She gets really pissed off. Very good.
It's such a good page.
Yes, and the life halo comes in as she achieves maximum power to protect Matsuri.
I think also like with gender roles again, like typically in a story like this, it'd be like, oh, the hero comes in to save the princess, and so it's like, but it's not. Like, Suzu doesn't win the battle herself. Matsuri doesn't win the battle herself. It's like, they work together. So it's like they're able to step up and protect each other when it matters. But it's like, in the end, they, their power is together.
Yes. But yeah, Suzu exercises boy Matsuri out of the Go-Gyo-sen, so he has his masculinity back, and I can refer to him with the pronouns I've been trying to refer to him with the manga from the whole manga so far. And yeah, the Go-Gyo-sen is literally this decrepit zombie, basically.
Yeah. I guess also, the fact that it is like Suzu going up against such a, like, I don't know if there's kind of like a tradition or some sort of way you could read into that. Like, all of these characters or like the Go-Gyo-sen are all, driven by their grudge and talking about everything that happened in Suzu's past life. And, Suzu responds with like, stop bringing up whatever happened in my past life, quit getting in the way of my love life.
Mm-hmm.
And, so it's like kind of, I guess, rejecting that past and just living in the moment. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, or at least, rejecting their attempts to control her, for sure. But anyway, then Garaku comes in. He's gonna fight the Go-Gyo-sen, and he's like, oh yeah, my ink, if I use fucking Ayakashi power, instead of ink, it can't be washed away. I haven't even been fucking trying this whole manga. It cuts away to Soga, who is this is when I really I realized I was just completely missing shit when I was reading it weekly, or just it wasn't sticking, because it's like, yeah, here's Soga's arc being resolved, basically, where it's like, he's still awkward about Matsuri, but he has grown. He has become able to this lady Ayakashi would have fucking torn him to shreds because he would have gotten awkward chapters ago, but now he's only one set of breasts can distract me now. Not this one. And of course I love the fucking visual of him outrunning the bullet train, because he's like, Matsuri needs help. Zoom.
You can get there in an hour, right? I'll be there in 30 minutes.
My parents aren't home. No, I don't know. Sorry.
It also reminds me of there's a shot like that in Kizu Monogatari where Araragi's running in right next to a train, but I don't remember what significance.
I do remember it because but give me 1 second. But yeah, the fight continues. They got some cool ass techniques that they're just throwing out willy nilly. And then Garaku sacrifices himself for Mei, the one that he loves, which of course pushes Shirogane to he separates from Kanade, and they decide to combine their powers. And then you got max power Suzu, let's fucking go! This is when the opening theme starts playing, or it would if it wasn't mid.
Yeah.
And yeah, Soga's already there. 28 minutes.
Yeah, and I like the resolution to Garaku's kind of he comes back, which I'm not quite sure how I feel about, but his sacrifice here, that it's sort of like, yeah, there isn't a place for him in the world anymore, because or there's not a place in he wanted to see the completed Ayakashi medium, but it's by the time he found her, there wasn't room in her heart for him in the same way.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's cool.
Yeah.
And it's him living or dying or not, it's still a cool moment.
Mm-hmm. And then we there's the we get the little flash to the old Queen of Yamato and their blade, which is oh, she looks like girl Matsuri.
Yeah. And
of course, obviously Suzu is really strong, but she's still fighting alone. So Matsuri comes in, and we got the team up battle.
Oh yeah, and Suzu mimicking Matsuri's fighting motions. Her channeling the Omokage, how Matsuri did the inner storm.
And yeah, using the lewdness as a weapon with the fucking Gatling style, rapid punches.
Yeah.
So many cool techniques, and she summons a fucking golem, that's their golem. Never mind. Oh yeah, because they summon an old style Ayakashi puppet kind of thing. Never mind. Yeah, lots of just cool techniques. And of course, yeah, Matsuri comes in with the fundoshi, his preferred underwear.
The ultimate character arc.
And Soga's like this last big character moment in the manga is overcoming his fear of lewdness enough to dress Matsuri properly. Matsuri's vitals just shot through the roof. Ultimate fundoshi. It's so stupid. I love it.
It's incredibly silly, but it works.
You will never understand our power, born of shamelessness. Then they embrace and achieve true power. Luminous love gale, where it's literally they're making a heart with their hands. How could this manga get any more gay?
Yeah.
And this is when they start kissing, and then I ruined the last fight of the manga because I noticed an odd typo.
Oh yeah.
I made a dumb meme because it's like, why would Kiss boost their power? And I literally photoshopped one of the guitarists from the band Kiss onto the explosion. It was silly. But yeah, no, it's just such. They're just like two girls kissing, and there's a giant fucking explosion. Like I was like, yeah, okay, this is my thread image. This is just it's so funny. It's so good.
It's peak.
And there's the love seal, but it's got a heart in front of it now, or as part of it now. And yeah, the fact that the Gyo-Gyo-sen are like they're just, like I said zombie earlier. They're just straight up like a fucking monster. Like they've become. The word, they're Ayakashi exorcists who are more like Ayakashi, right? So, and Shirogane stamps them out. Trying to, obstruct their path of love was an exercise in futility. Oh,
and just also, like, I can just picture this, like, I don't think there'd be a second season of the anime, but just, like, them kind of floating down on, like how they were kind of in the air and then landing on the ground, and yeah, it's and then they get distracted, like, who cares about the fight?
Yeah, I like their expressions because Suzu's like into it and Matsu's like, the fight's over, we don't need to kiss now. Suzu, like that's just kind of what the expression gives off to me, of just like that apprehension, like, no, we don't, but it's Suzu, she's too powerful. And then anyway, the parents go into the Gyo-Sen and they've been destroyed, because they were Jinyo, they were Ayakashi the whole time. Shirogane does a butt stomp, but as a big Ayakashi king. I didn't notice that before.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, trying to fucking destroy them. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I understand, like, because Garuku has this big sacrifice, but like, he finally gets to paint the completed Ayakashi medium, so
yeah,
and. I also just, he has people in the world who know him and think of him, so, it makes sense that he'd be able to regain his power, since he saw his perception, basically.
Yeah, I guess it's like, that's the resolution of what his motive to this point was, and then, like, at the end, Mei comes in and is like, I want to stay with you. So it's sort of like a new resolution, or, like, a new reason to keep going.
Yeah, and she's like, when I want to, live out the rest of my life as
something
with you.
Something, death and rebirth.
Yes, and I mean, just May's blush after she basically confesses to Garuku, and he's just like, you want to be a painter too?
Yeah.
Dummy. Shirogane goes to take over the kingship of Ayakashi, so Suzu can just casually live out the rest of her life, as she chooses. And then gasp, I'm gonna stay a girl at the end of the second to last chapter. Really cute cover page for the next chapter after that, with just a nice pose of group shot.
Yeah, no, I lost my shit at that chapter.
Yeah,
because it's also like, I really like the I guess there is kind of like a detours mattering more than the destination thing going on here. Oh, maybe that's why I like it a lot.
You
Like,
had the same thing happen to me. Like I was talking last time, where it's like, oh, I noticed this thing about my taste. And it's like, oh, it's just One Piece, and you're noticing, oh, I like this. Oh, it's just Hunter x Hunter. Right? It's just yeah.
I could see someone potentially reading this as like, oh, but the goal of the entire manga was to turn Matsuri back into a boy. So like, and there are several moments throughout the series where like either Matsuri or Suzu expresses the sentiment of like, like Matsuri thinking like, oh, maybe I should just stay a girl, and that kind of being presented in like a negative light because it's like he was thinking about abandoning that,
his
his past,
or cutting it off, or
and Suzu, trying to erase the feminine Matsuri because like, oh, none of this would have happened if Matsuri didn't get gender swapped. But it's like, yeah, none of this would have happened and you wouldn't be closer. Like, you wouldn't have had all those experiences. And yeah, like, even late in the manga, Matsuri expressing the sentiment that, like, would staying a girl negate everything that we've been through? Like, our goal to do all of this was to turn Matsuri back into a guy. But like that detour mattering more than the destination thing. It's like, well, the real part of why they got closer was because of this transformation. And it's like, in that final battle with like male Matsuri being reunited with female Matsuri, and like, because it's like they are, the yin and yang. They're like two halves of a whole. It's like, you don't get Matsuri without the masculinity that came before, but then also this period of like feminine Matsuri. And so like it all kind of coming together in this moment. I'm just like, yes.
Yes.
I like the in the last chapter where Soga's like, yeah, our days of fierce rivals, of being fierce rivals can begin anew. And then he sees that Matsuri's still a girl, and like a sigh of relief.
Yes, very good. Rayo's of course like, no matter what, we're partners. And of course I like Suzy using her superpowers, but in a gag context where she wants to know why Matsuri wants to stay a girl, and Matsuri's like avoiding the question, and so I'll bully it out of you.
I guess that moment's also like a good summation of their dynamic, because like Matsuri, I feel like, and maybe that is kind of that masculine element of like, kind of avoiding his feelings, which is why like, he gets embarrassed, like it, like when Suzu's like, hey, can you like, it'd be nice if you showed me your true feelings more often, and Matsuri's like, no, it's embarrassing. So like that kind of culminating in culminating maybe isn't the word, but kind of getting capped off with this moment where Matsuri's trying to run away and Suzu's like, no, you're gonna talk to me.
Yeah. Good. And then Matsuri explains himself, and that he's not ready to say goodbye to girl Matsuri just yet. And obviously Suzu's like, oh, we won't be able to date until graduation, and you can date girl me, just not boy me. Which I don't know. See, it's like it's good. I like it, and it is pushing the question towards the future, because like I don't know. I thought, well, like even the way Suzu's like, hey, if I have my full power, I could just change you back and forth as I please, basically.
Yeah, that does happen.
Right. Which is
is the most Suzu response.
Well, because I don't know, the way I was thinking of it, because did you ever watch Pretty Boy Detective or Baishounen Tatedan?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because I remember it kind of came up there too, where there's this, because it's a recurring idea. Like I think it also, I forget which staff member mentioned it with Hibiki Euphonium, where it's like, oh, they're still girls, because obviously you have Kumiko and Reika, who are like, there's episode 8 of season 1, which is like one of the gayest things I've ever seen. But then the director is like, yeah, but they're experimenting. It's in high school. They can do that, right? Where so there's sort of like, and Pretty Boy Detective also has that element of like, this is something they can do as kids, and they're gonna eventually grow out of it, kind of thing. So I feel like that's here to a degree as well, because I remember I was bringing it up earlier, and you brought up Bloom Into You because it brings it up in the context of like, well, that's not everyone's experience, because there was one character who was like, yeah, that was just a thing I was doing as a kid, basically, and they grew out of that. But then for the main characters, it's like, no, that's not what it is, right? So at least I do think of that when they bring up the at least until graduation thing. But then there is just like the fact that she isn't decided, Matsuri isn't decided yet, and the fact that Suzu does have the power to make it like more of a fluid thing, right? So it's not and obviously like with Baishan and Tatedan Pretty Boy Detective, it's like I only watched the first season and there's a whole bunch more books left, so I don't know what the answer the series comes to is. I was just bringing it up as an example of seeing that same idea again, basically. But yeah, just something I was thinking about. But then we get the big twist, the big reveal, like, well, why does the Ayakashi medium exist? Because I forget if the Gosen said anything, but like, because for the way they framed it is they killed Himiko, the first the Amaterasu, and then the queen of Yamato, Io, I forget, or maybe I'm forgetting her name. She was reincarnated and she destroyed them. So there's almost like, oh, she surpassed us through reincarnation, so we held a super long grudge. But then it turns out that the actual reason she incarnated was because she was in fucking love with someone who presumably reincarnated as Matsuri, because they look fucking identical. So it's just like, the Gogyo-sen were so self-obsessed, that I don't know. I don't know if they really thought that, like, she did it on purpose, but they had this grudge, but it's like, it was just incidental. It was just like she just wanted to live with the person she loves through time, basically. So, very good.
It's almost kind of like the Indra and Ashura stuff in Naruto, the whole like idea of like reincarnations.
Yeah. I mean, I've compared it to Naruto before, but I mean, it's just except Yabuki has the courage to do it. Kishimoto is too much of a coward to do it. Like, Kishimoto really makes the fucking gayest thing I've ever seen, and then just make it somehow just they're hetero, I swear. Like, hello.
What if we took sexy jutsu and made it the gimmick of the manga? That's a huge oversimplification.
I mean, thinking about it, Naruto does toy with his own gender in that way. So he plays around as a child, so to speak. As someone who hasn't graduated in a sense, but then the Ayakashi medium and her knight have arrived at the precious, irreplaceable future they were looking for, where they can be in love, and it's good, and the winds are blowing it again. And then manga's over. It was a good manga, yay! So I mean, final thoughts, which are probably the same as your starting thoughts of just like manga good. More than that, obviously, but
this manga's a 10 out of 10 for me. It's absolutely a favorite. Just like, I mean, I talked about a lot of my personal attachment to it, that just like, it's not perfect. There are things in it that, I don't care for, but the overall just like collection of everything that's in it is just like, it hits pretty close to home, and it's a good, the story has a good structure to it. It flows very well. I think last time I kind of talked about the pacing and how, it doesn't have so much that, like, here's the setup for an arc, here's a big arc, here's the next thing. It's like, it's all kind of in flux, where there's a lot of breathing room and slice of life.
I was gonna say, as far as like doing because I just realized, wait, no, character and arc rankings and shit, and it's like, because I didn't prepare any, because I kind of completely forgot it. It was a 2-episode series. Sorry, I didn't think about it. And 2, it's like, I can't really do an arc ranking, because like the longest arc is the last one. The rest are like maybe like 5 chapters. Like it's hard to really think of them as arcs in that sense. And then sort of like we had with Shaman King, where it's like, I guess you can say it's one big arc, but it's like with a bunch of smaller arcs, and it's like, you can't really divide them. With fights, I mean, like, there were definitely ones that I liked, but I wasn't thinking about it as the time. And characters, I like a bunch of I like Soga. Suzu might be, is she my favorite? Because she's, I mean, like, they're all interesting, but I think Suzu is also really funny. because of her perviness. That is just like
Yeah.
which you can call a double standard because I typically don't find male pervert characters very funny. But I don't know, Suzu's just so over the top with it that it's it makes me laugh. I don't know. But as for my thoughts on the manga is, it does a lot of really cool things that I like, because I just, like the exploration of sexuality. I like I like stupid things that are also done in smart ways, like, because it'll have like, the way it'll introduce powers in comedy stuff, or, is very fun. And it's fun. It's a really, really solid manga that I had a lot of fun rereading, and I'm glad that I did reread it, because now I have this broadened perspective on it. So instead of just being trapped in weekly hell. So did you have any thoughts on like favorite characters or fights or anything before you head out? Or
yeah, like, I mean, Matsuri is my favorite character, but Suzu's pretty close. Soga is a great rival boy, and I said it early on that the twist of like, oh, he's a love rival, wait, but actually he just falls for the gender swap main character. It's peak. Like other characters, I really liked Hinojiki, the Jinyo.
Yes.
Him coming back and kind of evolving as a character over time is pretty cool. I feel like I appreciated Shadow May a lot more on the reread. Just kind of getting a full picture of her character.
May is really fun. Yayo's good. Lou is super cute.
Oh yeah. I really like Yayo. And what was the other one I was going to say? Like Garaku as well. I feel like I appreciate it more.
I can't not say Shirogane. He's so funny, and I like most of his good stuff was in the first half, but it's still good stuff. Like when it just those click moments of like, oh my god, he hates horniness because of the teenagers using his shrine to kiss. It's like, it's so silly. And yeah, him like being like having that traditional mindset, but growing out of it is also good. But he's just a good straight man. Shirogane good.
Yeah, and I mean, like, yeah, it's hard to think of favorite fights on the whole, but the big ones that stand out to me are like, the one at the end. And that first fight where Shadow May shows up and like takes over Suzu, because that was just like the most, like, initially when I was reading the series, I wasn't huge on the action elements, but then I got there and I was like, wait a minute, I might have been looking at this all wrong.
Really fun, interesting series. Glad it's a good pick to be the one that like breaks our habit of reading boomer manga. Because I feel like it is a manga that it might have been harder to sell, or at the time, back in the day, maybe, I don't know, because it does have progressive values.
We were the Go-Gyosen all along.
Oh no! Oh god, because we're boomers reading old manga. Anyway, so next time, where it's probably going to be a short episode, because we're just going to read the first 3 volumes of Trigun, which are also the last 3 volumes of Trigun. After that, we'll be reading Trigun Maximum, which is going to be the real bulk of the reading. But I'm still interested in it, because I read the first chapter years ago, and you've watched the anime, so which is mostly anime original content. So I feel like it'll be interesting.
I'll be curious.
Thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you next time.